Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 a Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio. It is a fanatic Friday. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. He's Ari Timken on social at Ari Sports, ARI Sports. I'm James Westling on social at James Westling. T-Chains, Taman Turner on the audio, Anthony Smith on the video. We're also simulcast on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios. Good morning, sir.
How are you?
Fantastic.
Very active this morning.
Active?
Yeah.
What do you mean by active?
Just very active. You're very all over the place.
Animated, flustered?
Yeah.
Chaotic?
Yeah. Those are three great words to describe you this morning, which is good. Everybody benefits from that.
Okay, so that's top of mind for you.
Yeah.
I had, by the way, we've got Jimmer Fredette on today's show, which I'm super excited about.
Jimmer.
The Jimmer. BYU legend will join us at 9:30 Central Time to talk all things college basketball, all things BYU, AJ Bonsa, Darren Peterson, so many different things we can go over with Jimmer about.
One of the most iconic March Madness players of all time. I mean, certainly a guy whose name is synonymous with March Madness.
Was his run, it was his second to last year, the run that he had to take BYU to the Sweet 16, because they played K-State his last year in the second round, and K-State with Jacob Pullen and Curtis Kelly and Dene Clemente, and that casual team that went to the Elite Eight, they got BYU in the
What happened in the Elite Eight?
Well, they were tired. They lost their legs. That's what happened, because they just played a 3-overtime thriller in the Sweet 16 and were going on 36 hours of rest.
You should make sure to bring that up to the Jimmer today.
Hey, remember when you played Jacob Pullen?
Just make your first question. Hey, what? I was just thinking about that Sweet 16 game against Jacob Pullen. How did that go? He was pretty good, wasn't he?
He was a really good player. Your thoughts, Jimmer? So, yeah, we got Jimmer on. We also have, we got a loaded lineup today. We've got Justin Spears, the beat writer for the Tucson Star, to go over all things Arizona. He joins us in this first hour here in about 35 minutes. And then we also have the coach, Norm Roberts, former head coach at St. John's and assistant at KU, does work for ESPN. He's in hour number 2. And then also, right before Jimmer in the 9 a.m. hour, Josh Edwards, our NFL draft writer for CBS Sports, because off-season optimism is
mandatory.
And there's another Modelo fan rule. We're powered by Modelo that has something to do with research, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the exact fan rule is, but I know Ari has it.
Yeah, it's cheers to all you Modelo full-time fans as we are enjoying this off-season, because remember, Modelo fan rule number 31, off-season doesn't mean off. It means research.
Research. Phenomenal research within the research as you scrolled to find that fan rule. That was impressive. No joke.
Well, because I've been reading it. I memorized it incorrectly. I've been saying off-season. There is no off-season. There's only research. It's off-season doesn't mean off. It means research. It's way better.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah, their version's better. A little bit. Man, I had a weird thing happen this morning. So I tried to order a birthday present for my son yesterday, and it was supposed to be here last night from Amazon.
Of
course, Amazon probs, as usual. So it didn't show up last night. I wake up this morning, I walk out to the front door, it's not there. I check the app, delivery problems. And then it said that they had attempted the delivery 2 or 3 times. What does that mean? Like, my front door hasn't moved in a decade. Did they not find it? Do I have to sign for this thing? It really had me rethinking this Nerf gun package. If I have to sign for this Nerf gun, I'm a little concerned about what I actually purchased.
Yeah, that one feels like, sometimes if you return something to Amazon and maybe you're a little bit, you're maybe not honest about why you're returning it. It kind of feels like that. Like the delivery driver was not honest about why they couldn't deliver. I've had that happen a few times where it's like delivery failed. Like that's never happened before. Like, what have you failed to do? You walk up to the stoop, you put the package down, you take a picture, and you're on with your way. Yeah. No, yeah. And then you call up Amazon, you're like all flustered and heated, and it's like, oh, I'm talking to some guy in Bangladesh who's got way bigger problems than I've got. My package wasn't delivered in 24 hours. How can this be? How can it be that I haven't gotten my package in the 24 hours I was promised it was going to be here?
You would call Amazon to find out where that package is. I just sat on the app and I was like, it'll be here. But you, sir, made a phone call.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if especially in like a failed delivery, you had one job.
Well, you know what my thought was.
You had one job. It was to deliver. How have you failed in your job?
Yeah, I was going to give the delivery drivers, because it was multiple attempts. I mean, we're talking 2 or 3 attempts. The benefit of the doubt that they struggled to find the house because it's not easily marked. Our address isn't super clear, and sometimes we park on the street where it actually
3 times. Like they left, they came back. They're like, I still can't find it.
I don't know what happened. And then my other thought was, aren't they testing out in the Dallas area these Amazon drones that are delivering packages?
You've been talking about that. I haven't seen.
Oh, it's happening. That's my first thought. Is that drone malfunctioned? There was a drone problem.
It is sort of amazing, though, how Amazon has just, like, reprogrammed us to, like, expect packages to be delivered, like, very quickly. Now, when like, if I order from somewhere else or even from Amazon and it's, like, 3 days, it's like, 3 days? What? You call up all angry? Again, like...
Again, you would call.
I know you,
3
you know.
days.
I'm sure you're getting paid like $2.25 in Bangladesh here an hour, but listen, in America, I've got big issues, okay? I was promised delivery overnight. It's been 3 days. Where is my package? Nothing makes me sound more spoiled
You've never sounded bougier.
than the guy calling Amazon.
Oh, totally. I have a big event this weekend. Where is my jacket?
Where are my parachute pants? Okay, they were supposed to be delivered yesterday. There's a delay. It was a failed delivery. How do you fail to deliver something, sir?
Oh, that's the most you thing ever. I'm here for that. I love that.
No, it's not me. It's somebody else. I'm just retelling a story
Okay.
I was told.
Okay.
I wouldn't do
all
something
right.
like
No,
that.
you wouldn't.
Come
do
on.
that. Anyways, I was all geeked
It's a
up.
friend of a friend.
Okay. Yeah. Asking for a friend.
Yeah, of course.
I was all geeked up this morning. I was running a little bit early. I thought, man, I'm really gonna shock the guys in the studio when I show up earlier than usual. But then I saw the Amazon delivery driver coming down the street.
You flag him down. You get in the
Yes.
middle of the street like,
Yes.
it's for me.
Yes.
You're looking for me.
I met him at the curb. I wrenched that package out of his hands.
Did you really?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you ask him why he failed?
That package.
Did you ask him? How did you know it was for you? Amazon trucks are constantly going all over the street.
I just knew.
You just knew.
And the look on my face, he didn't question me. And then that was my next thought. I was like, I could totally be some guy off the street just grabbing this package. Like, there was no, hey, where's your ID?
What lunatic?
Do you actually live here? I'm at the curb.
What lunatic is waiting for an Amazon package and a Nerf gun at 6:40 and 6:20 in the morning?
By the time he gets to 12:03, I'm at that curb. I was dialed in. So anyway,
Flag down the Amazon guy. Sir, I believe you missed deliveries here. Sir, this is me. I'm James. Yeah, that's
exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. All right, so we got some new college football rule changes that are being proposed. I want to get your thoughts on a couple of these. There's like 4 or 5 things from the NCAA Rules Committee that they are proposing for the upcoming college football season. And the rapid-fire version is, number one, it starts with targeting. So the Rules Committee has proposed that a first-time targeting offender doesn't have a carryover suspension to the next game. We saw that impact some high-level college football playoff games. Rule number 2, offensive pass interference, no longer 15 yards, now just 10. There's a new fair catch kick rule that is a little bit confusing to me. But then also the NCAA trying to clamp down on these fashion statements that are being made. Players must wear leg coverings from the top of their shoes to the bottom of their pants. No more bare leg running around the football field all willy-nilly.
I have no idea what that means.
That means you have to have like those compression pants from the top of your shoe to the bottom of your pant.
Okay.
That's it.
Got it. Okay. What else?
That's it. Those are the rules.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the the rules oversight committee. So this is not technically the NCAA, but rather like administrators, athletic directors, etc. I have a feeling these will all pass, especially the targeting rule, which seems to change every year. I think I read too that there were only 5 second-time offenders for targeting last year. So this seems like the right rule change and won't have a dramatic impact on the majority. However, if you are a second-time offender based on this new rule, I believe you missed the entire game. So, I mean, it makes it you might even miss a few games. I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but yeah, I mean, it makes it just way more punitive for a second-time offender. So it's one of those, like, you get a warning, and next time, you're going to be sitting out for a while. There's also a few others that have been proposed. And we'll start with we'll call it the Jake Retzloff rule. So, again, administrators are sort of throwing up their hands right now and just sort of figuring out, like, what can we do? Like, they're upset. They're losing in court. There's, seemingly no rules. Like, you create these portal windows, and then you've got a guy like Jake Retzloff in a situation that he was in at BYU that, can go to Tulane outside of the portal window and enroll as a student and then be on the football team. They're trying to make a very punitive rule that would basically penalize a coach for bringing a player on like that. And I think it was like they would be penalized. They'd be suspended for 6 games, which would include, practices, film sessions, etc. Like, they could not be with the team for over a period of time. And then there would also be a fine associated with it. I get what they're trying to do. I think they would lose in court in a situation where that would happen, and it would just become messy. So, maybe it passes, and then there's an example of a situation like that happening where a guy transfers out, or outside the portal window, leaves, goes to a different school, enrolls, plays in the football team, and then they sue preemptively, create an injunction. I mean, you have the same thing happening right now. There's, with the Sorsby situation, with others where they're trying to keep the players at their own school, like, you get injunctions, they're playing at the new school. It's just hard to, stop that train, especially from a legalese standpoint, from leaving the station. So I get what they're trying to do. I don't think it'll work. There's also, as Ross Dellinger is reporting on a lot of this, they're trying to put an end to tampering, which, again, like, understand why they're doing it, but good luck. And then lastly, to sort of summarize all of this stuff, there's talk about change to the calendar, which is obviously something we've been talking a lot about. And the changes that are probably most substantive would be, they would not be changing the window for the transfer portal. It would stay in January. We've talked a lot about that and how problematic it is. The issue, though, as you brought up, is they're still student athletes, quote unquote, which means you sort of need it to coincide with the start of a new semester so that they can roll in that school and be there for spring football. There is an opportunity, I think, for coaches to take a month in summer as opposed to doing spring. So you could basically move spring to summer for football. And the other part of this, the calendar change, would be to move week 1 to week 0, or as it's also known, move week 1 up.
Would we still call it week 0?
No. It would be week 1.
I'm just going to lean into week 1.
Just a lot of the reporting I heard on it was by moving week 1 to week 0, and it's like, no, we're just moving week 1 up.
Yeah.
Can we just get rid of the week 0 verbiage? It sounds ridiculous.
It really does.
We're moving it up, but what that would allow for is every team to then get 2 bye weeks. To me, it's a no-brainer because we're starved for football by that period of time. As opposed to the 1 week without the NFL, you get then 2 weeks on your own during the non-conference. So it makes a ton of sense. Move the calendar up. Have 2 bye weeks. So that's just like the 50,000-foot view. We can dig deeper into the tampering stuff. We can dig deeper into some of this other stuff.
Dude, I love the idea of having spring football in the summer, because you have spring and then there's kind of like a dead period in the summer where, sure, we're talking a lot about transfers and we're getting really excited about media days and teams start practicing now like late July, early August. But to have all of those spring practices and spring festivities and maybe even a scrimmage that fans can attend in the middle of summer, I mean, that would be the equivalent to me of an NFL training camp, which for college football would be fantastic. Also, just to touch on that transfer rule that you were talking about, a little more clarification. So basically, if a student athlete does not provide the notification that they wish to transfer during that January window, if they don't enter the portal, so if that student athlete ends up at a different school, and you touched on some of this, but the head coach would be prohibited from all football activities, that's recruiting, on-field coaching, for 6 games. The school would be fined 20% of its football budget.
Yeah.
And the school would be required to reduce the number of roster spots by 5 for the next season, regardless of the head coach's employment status at the school. Like, not sure if that's going to hold up. Those are some pretty stiff penalties.
Very stiff, but it won't hold up. Legally speaking, like there's so much in there that is not enforceable legally speaking. I mean, it's, you're basically conspiring, right? I mean, I get what they're doing and I get why they're doing it, but you probably need a collective bargaining agreement for this kind of stuff. And they're not going after the players, but in this case, every single school is sort of their own entity. And so, like, they're going to look out for their own best self-interest. And in the situation for Tulane, like, you want a guy like Jake Retzloff. He's available. There's no portal opportunity for him. In the Retzloff example here, you're going to fight it in court, and you're probably going to win. And at the very least, you're going to get an injunction to allow him to play if this happens in, let's say, spring. And that's where, like, the spring-summer thing, I think I agree with you there. It'll be very interesting to see where coaches make decisions on, is it in our best interest to do spring or summer? You want to get them there, and especially if you've got like a freshman class or transfers that you want to start getting them, in the process of learning the offense. I think spring makes more sense. And then they're at least, with learning their schematics offensively, defensively, whatever it is, from an earlier period of time. But like, there's injuries, there's things happen, that could lead to more kids sort of taking advantage of these loopholes that allow them to leave their school, go somewhere else, enroll, and then join the football team. But again, I don't think it's enforceable because legally speaking, there's just a lot there doesn't seem like it's enforceable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, we've got some massive Big 12 basketball news coming up here in about 5 minutes about everything that's going to be transpiring at the Big 12 women's and men's basketball tournaments. Also some game day stuff for Kansas City. But I just saw this. I want to get your thoughts on this. So this isn't on the rundown, but College Transfer Portal is an account that they do a really good job of just tracking guys that enter the portal and posting highlights and things like that. Apparently, football recruits are figuring out how to use AI to fabricate fake highlights. All of these plays on this minute 15 video that this kid is using as his recruiting highlight tape were generated by artificial intelligence.
That's one way to stand out.
I can't tell the difference just looking at them.
You can't? As you said, does the football look weird? You got to look for kind of different tells.
No.
I mean, look, I can't imagine there are a lot of, let's just call it, big-time D1 programs that are going to be recruiting a kid solely off of tape that they generated.
Right.
Yeah, like, come on campus. Let's see you.
The kid's 6'5", 240 pounds, and then he shows up to campus and he's 5'10", $140.
Yeah, like, oh. But, I mean, I think as quickly as some of this AI stuff comes, schools have to start investing in counter AI stuff. I know from like an educational standpoint they have, right? There's checks and balances they have for papers and stuff that's turned in that checks for AI tells. And so, yeah, I'm sure the athletic department has to invest in some of this stuff too. Problem is, I mean, we're talking about the Big 12 level, which is a lot more sophisticated than it would be at lower levels, even beyond the FBS.
Right. This is more FCS, Division II, NAIA, JUCO. All right, coming up next, Big 12 basketball, our weekend preview. We'll break down all the exciting things happening in Kansas City. Also, a massive slate on the hardwood this weekend. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We are brought to you by Modelo. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio.
Here are the top plays from this week's Player of the Week.
DiBonzo's going to try to push. AJ in the open court all the way! The number one pick in this NBA draft. Open floor, 40-inch vert from defense to... One guy Kevin Young was talking about today leading up to the game. We cannot give him looks from three. DiBonzo, shot fake, and elevates right over top of the game. That's a pro move. It's an elite level footwork. He'll jab, he'll lift you with a shot fake, he'll stop, and he gets so high, and his release is so high on that jump shot. DiBonzo, one-on-one, crossover, elevates, knocks down the shot, and a foul! That's 6'9", getting to his spot, elevating up, getting fouled. Tough catch, couldn't catch it. Bodies flying everywhere. Davis again, way short, but DiBonzo is there. They're just not boxing out. DiBonzo pokes it away. Look out. Here we go! Comes over and helps, deflects that ball away. Knows he has time. I believe that could be a good pairing. DiBonzo drives. AJ! Come on! Oh my goodness, another spectacular move.
Speaking of Coach Kelvin Sampson, Houston has fallen to a 3 seed in the South. In Joe Lenardi's latest bracketology, we've got a Big 12 basketball bubble watch coming up next hour, but this is our weekend preview. Ton of really exciting stuff happening in the Big 12. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. And
by the way, how pissed would you be to be a 1 or a 2 seed in the South and get a 3 seed Houston in Houston?
In their own backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, the Toyota Center is blocks away from the Houston campus.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great for Houston, obviously, but I think if they're not a 2 seed, giving them Houston is bizarre.
And I don't think they would do that unless Houston is a 1 or a 2.
Yeah,
because it'd almost be penalizing the teams that are the 1 seed or the 2 seed in that region. Totally agree. All right, ESPN Game Day is headed to Fort Worth for the women's basketball matchup on Sunday between Baylor and TCU, and Baylor coach Nikki Collins fired up about it.
I don't know how many games they've won in a row up there, but it's a lot. And so I just encourage anyone to put Schollmeyer, whatever, Arena, Coliseum, in their GPS and be there on Sunday. So happy for the Big 12 that game day's coming to the Big 12. I think the league has been doing this on purpose, with us playing this last game of the year. If it happens again next year, I'm going to know. But I think it's an exciting thing for the league. And that doesn't take away from the fact that West Virginia is right there too. And West Virginia, come Sunday, is going to be the biggest Baylor fan probably in the country. So, but we'll take their prayers and their fingers crossed and all the things. So at this point, I'm going to be happy sharing it.
Oh, Nikki, the Big 12 is very much scheduling that game for the last regular season weekend on purpose. And the Big 12 scheduling matrix for women's and men's basketball this year has been an absolute masterclass with all the incredible matchups on the women's side, on the men's side, headed into the Big 12 tournament.
Well, I mean, the Big 12 has different goals, I guess, than goals, maybe not the right word. But Nikki's looking at this from a competitive standpoint. Like, man, this sucks. Like, this is difficult.
Right.
And TCU and Baylor have played twice here at the end of the season in the same way that Arizona and Kansas have, which is difficult on them, but obviously fortifies the end goal for the Big 12, which is putting the best matchups at a period of time when most people are watching college basketball. And especially if you're Nikki, you've got to see the forest through the trees here a little bit. I get, again, competitively, it's tough, really tough. But the forest through the trees is, in women's basketball, you're trying to garner as much of an audience as you possibly can. So backloading these really impactful matchups, and TCU Baylor is as good as it gets. It's a rivalry. It's the I-35 rivalry. It's close proximity to Texas schools. There's just a lot there. And then basketball-wise, these are two extremely competitive, very good college basketball programs on the women's side. So you've got to see the forest through the trees if you're Nikki Collin. And, yeah, of course, as you said, it's on purpose. And now, it's getting college game day, which is huge. See the forest through the trees, right? Like you got to see how big of a deal this has become because of the game and forgetting about the competitive side of this. And yeah, it is Schollmeyer Arena, and yeah, they have won 41 straight. 41s are wild here. Bill Self's won 41 straight home games on Big Monday, and TCU's won 41 straight home games.
It will pull a massive number. It will be the most watched Big 12 women's basketball game of the season, and can't wait to see the type of audience that it gets for that massive showdown on Sunday. On the men's side, 2 banger matchups for this weekend. Also, the Big 12 has announced that what fans need to know about the Big 12 women's and men's basketball tournaments coming up here in a couple of weeks. T-Mobile Center, the Big 12 is turning this into like a 2-week takeover. FanFest is back. It's bigger. It's better than ever. You've got a gaming truck. You've got custom hats, trading cards, photo ops, monster giveaways, plus a 16-school starter varsity jacket capsule collection. Venmo Hall at No Other Pub on March 14th takes over Power and Light, a championship watch party. They've got premium experience options that have been upgraded, and then Big 12 Eats returns its school-specific every school will have a signature item inside of the T-Mobile Center, entertainment upgrades with the floor and everything else that we've been over, and the basketball matters. On the men's side, the most top 25 teams of any conference in America. I just don't see other leagues from an entertainment value putting anything like this together for their conference tournament. I think you just show up for the ACC or the Big Ten or whatever, you watch the games and you go home.
Yeah, I mean, look, this gives people a reason not just to come to Kansas City for the games, but for the experience of it all, right? Like this is the accoutrement. It also invites local people in the Kansas City area to come out even if you're not going to the games. Bring your kids. There's a Rally Cry gaming truck, state-of-the-art mobile esports arena that unfolds into a full competitor stage with LED screens, spectator viewing, and onstage gaming for fans. Hat customization station from Phillips 66. Photo booth from Edward Jones. Fan trading card creation with Old Trapper. Old Trapper Monster Energy giveaways. New era and Rally House merchandise pop-ups. You touched on that. So, yeah, I mean, super cool. Look, the games are still the games, but just adding all these other pieces to it invites more people, creates more of an entertainment district, and especially with the Power and Light being where it is. Like, that's why Kansas City is the perfect venue for this. And, there's been a lot of talk. I was on with my friends at 810 in Kansas City, and, they're wondering about, especially when that big announcement was coming up, a lot of people wondered if that was going to be the announcement that they were moving out of Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And I assured, people in Kansas City, like, first of all, I think, like, the league knows that how big of a deal the tournament is in Kansas City, so it wouldn't be like this huge build-up announcement. It would probably, if they did move it, which I don't think they will, it'd be like kind of like a under the, like very, like they'd sneak it in terms of the announcement. But like Kansas City leans into the Big 12 tournament in a way that we just don't see some of these other big cities, right? Like if you think about Vegas, if the Big 12 tournament was in Vegas, it would be just something else going on in Vegas. Mm-hmm. When you're in Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament, you see the Big 12 everywhere. The presence of the Big 12 is everywhere. When I was in San Antonio for the Final Four last year, I got an Uber, and the Uber driver had his car decorated for the Final Four. And like when I went to Radio Row in San Francisco, not this year, but the last time it was there for the Super Bowl, you're walking around the city and people are like, the Super Bowl's here? Like there's a football game going on here? So the advantages you get in certain cities for these things is huge because of how much the city embraces and leans into that. And so let's use that as a starting point. Now, KC Power and Light being connected to T-Mobile Center and all of the, the fanfare that invites. You've got DJ Khaled. You've got all these setups at the bars and restaurants and stuff around that area. It's just a perfect setting. So, I don't have any inside for information here, but I don't see the Big 12 basketball tournament leaving Kansas City anytime soon. It's a hub. It's been there for a long time. There's a history there. It's a great basketball city, and it's a perfect setup, and a city that leans into it no other way.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. Two games that could impact seeding in the Big 12 men's tournament are tomorrow, and one of them right here on the channel. KU at Arizona starts at 4 Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. You can hear it here on Big 12 Radio. You can watch it on ESPN. KU ranked 14th in the latest poll, Arizona number 2. And then also at 3 o'clock, 16th ranked Texas Tech at Iowa State. Hilton Coliseum at 4 Eastern, 3 Central. That game is on CBS. And then BYU has a sneaky game at West Virginia. The other games, Baylor at UCF, Utah at Arizona State, Oklahoma State at Cincinnati, Colorado at Houston, and TCU at Kansas State. Let's hear from Arizona coach Tommy Lloyd as Arizona now kind of goes through the meat of their Big 12 schedule.
Yeah, listen, I can't speak for everyone else. I mean, the seasons are obviously long and they're tough, and it's been a long road, but I feel like we're coming out of it. I feel like we're coming out of it at the right time, and, you have to acknowledge it's probably going to happen over the course of a season. You don't manifest it happening, but when it does, you have to deal with it. I think everyone's had to go through it at some point this season, and I'm hoping we had a good day off yesterday, and I told our guys it needed to be our best day of this rest and recovery we've had all season, and then we need to follow it up with a couple good practices because we haven't been able to practice much, and so as a coach you probably overdo it a little bit, but I think practice matters, so hopefully we can get back to it.
Arizona forward Koa Pete has returned to practice. He's missed the last 3 games because of a lower leg muscle strain. He didn't play against Baylor, but he did participate in some limited warm-ups, so we'll check on his status before the KU game. But Tommy Lloyd's saying that Arizona's kind of coming out of it. Like, their next 2 games are Kansas and Iowa State. There's no coming out of it in the Big 12, but I think he means, hey, we're turning the corner in terms of starting to win some of these upper echelon games after they lost back-to-back.
Yeah, and they're both home games, so at least there's that part of it. You're not hitting the road for really tough environments, and we know that it's been really tough to get these road games anywhere, especially with the top 5 teams, the Big 12, playing against each other. And these are hugely impactful games. I mean, with 3 left, there's still a shot here for Arizona to not win the Big 12 championship. And then, as you mentioned, the seeding for the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. If Kansas loses against Arizona, Arizona pretty much clinches the Big 12 championship. They'd still have to beat Iowa State, but again, they're in the driver's seat in pretty good shape. And then Kansas is in position with 5 conference losses to be that 5 seed. Then if Iowa State were to lose, is it Big Monday, Arizona and Iowa State? Then they've got 5 losses. So avoiding that 5 seed, getting the double bye and being one of the top 4 seeds is hugely important. And Kansas and Iowa State both have really tough games. Houston, again, their final 3 games put them in position to only have the 4 losses, so they just can stand pat if they, take care of business and then watch some of these other teams lose. Look, TCU's going on the road. They've got to beat K-State, right? TCU is very firmly right now in position to be an NCAA tournament team. They need to win Kansas State on the road. West Virginia needs a win over BYU. BYU has kind of been up and down since the Richie Saunders injury. If West Virginia wants to be considered for the NCAA tournament, they need to beat BYU. That'd be a huge win for them if they could get it. And then, Iowa State has Texas Tech at home and then Arizona on Monday at Arizona. So that's a tough stretch. I mean, if Texas Tech were to get that road win, which is really difficult to win at Hilton Coliseum, I believe they're undefeated at home. Then Iowa State would have 5 losses. Again, there's a lot of play here, right? All these games are meaningful. I mean, pretty much the only one that's not is Utah, Arizona State. But even Arizona State still sort of in it, I guess. But for the most part, every one of these games has potential. Oklahoma State, Cincinnati's basically elimination game. Whoever wins that game is still in position to be in the NCAA tournament. They probably need to do a little bit more, but whoever loses that game is firmly out of it. So all these games are pretty meaningful in terms of seeding, in terms of getting to the tournament, and in terms of winning the Big 12 championship.
Oh, very much so. And Iowa State is undefeated at home. They're 15-0. Arizona has a 2-game lead on everybody else in the Big 12. So if Arizona just wins one of these next 2, both at home against either KU or Iowa State, Arizona is your Big 12 regular season champ. They wrap up with Colorado. Love me some Colorado,
right?
But feel good about Arizona taking care of business in that game. So having a 2-game lead on everybody else with 3 games to go, not quite ready to call it, but Arizona's in a really good position to be your Big 12 regular season champ. And speaking of Arizona, Justin Spears, who covers the Wildcats for the Tucson Star, he's also part of Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson. He is our next guest, our first guest on this Fanatic Friday. We'll talk with Justin after the break. He's Ari, I'm James. Here are the top
Big 12
plays
today on
from
Big
this
12.
week's Player of the Week.
Miles with Kara Merchant having her ankles tangled. Miles, filthy for her 3rd 3. Finds herself fit enough to be a part of this TCU lineup because Coach Campbell is unforgiving in practices. How about that for Miles? And the foul with no fear.
I mean, she just has a knack for making plays there, making something out of nothing.
Dean and Tillman at Sac State. Creativity gets Hunter down low. Ross with an offensive board, and she is stripped away by Silva.
There's been at least 3 shots that Houston's had right around the rim that they just haven't finished. Houston really struggled to score in the paint, though, throughout this one because of their length. That's just their 6th point in the paint.
Mismatch again for Suarez.
Miles with the pass fake. Wide open look. Finally, throws her hands into the air, getting closer, taking longer than what we expect after watching her go for 40 at Baylor. Suarez rattles in a three. Williams now with 13. Miles looks to dish, gets the assist. Basham with the finish. Miles weaving through traffic, puts it up off the window for two. But got it before it went out of play. Miles somehow, some way found the opening.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, brought to you the full-time fan by Modelo, getting set for Kansas at Arizona. You can hear that game right here on Big 12 Radio tomorrow at 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Can watch it on ESPN, and nobody knows Arizona better than Justin Spears. Writes for the Tucson Star, co-host of Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson. Hey, Justin, what's up?
What's up, guys? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, same to you. Hey, what's the latest on Koa Pete? I understand he went through warm-ups a little bit against Baylor. Is he expected to play tomorrow or no?
So I would probably say that it's a good sign that he is going to play against Kansas, albeit nothing is really confirmed right now. But I think it is a good sign that he is practicing. So Koa Pete and Dwayne Aristode, the other freshman forward who's been a part of the rotation this year, he's been out the last few games with an illness. So Koa Pete with an ankle injury or lower leg, and then Dwayne Aristode with an illness. Both of those guys practiced this week, which is the first time they practiced in a little bit. So, and then Koa Pete, before their most recent game against Baylor, went through pregame warmups and all of that. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, it's a guarantee that Koa Pete will play on Saturday, but it certainly looks good for the Arizona Wildcats.
And I mean, how precautionary has this absence for him been?
Yeah, I think, you never want to rush a player like him back. And Tommy Lloyd and Koa, they're thinking about big picture here. They want to be playing the best basketball in the month of April rather than the month of February. So, when Koa Pete went down with that injury in that first half against Texas Tech, I think Arizona made the smart decision by not playing him the second half and then keeping him out for those few games. And then, I mean, you got to also give Tommy Lloyd and his staff a lot of credit, and the players too, because they've had to dig deep into their bag and bring in guys like C.D. Gay and Evan Nelson, guys that haven't really played much this year, and then they're asking to contribute 4 or 5 minutes a game. And then if you look at the most recent game against Baylor, yeah, those guys got in the game, but Arizona was really relying on a 6-man rotation. And if you were to tell me going into this stretch of games without Koa Pete that Arizona would be 3-0, I would say wishful thinking, but you know what? I give Arizona a lot of credit. And I know that the BYU Cougars, they were without Richie Saunders, which is, a big time loss for BYU, but that's still an impressive win for Arizona considering you're going up against, in my opinion, the best player in the league in AJ DeBonsa. So
yeah.
It's a really good stretch for Arizona, and I think that the last few games, it really says a lot about the Wildcats. And if you can play without Koa Pete and still be 3-0 and then bring them back in as if nothing changed, that says a lot about Arizona. And they've done it in multiple ways. They could beat you in high-scoring games. They could beat you in these rock fight type of games. And that game against Baylor, to me, will go down as one of the best wins of the season for Arizona, because if you think about it, I mean, that's usually the type of game over the years that Arizona loses. I go back to when Arizona was playing in the Pac-12, and that game against Baylor the other night, that reminded me so much of like an 8 p.m., 9 p.m. tip-off game against Oregon State in Corvallis, right? You're coming off a very emotional win over Houston, beating the number 2 ranked team in the country, a team that's had Arizona's number over the last few years. You're doing it without Koa Pete, and that was a very emotional win and a really good win for Tommy Lloyd. As a matter of fact, I probably think that's maybe Tommy Lloyd's best win ever at the University of Arizona.
Wow.
And then so you are coming off a very emotional win, and then Baylor, I mean, give them a lot of credit, man. They have some talent. I mean, they have maybe a couple of all Big 12 caliber guys, maybe guys that are going to get drafted in the first round of this upcoming NBA draft. And they don't really have like that one marquee win. They might not even make the tournament, but I'm sure their season would be made if they beat a team like Arizona on their home floor. And so Baylor took it to them. I mean, Baylor was very active on the glass. They were, out physicaling Arizona there for a little bit in that first half, and then Arizona was able to turn it on in the second half and outlast Baylor. That is a very hungry Baylor team. That is a Baylor team that is so much better than their record suggests. And for Arizona to win a gritty game like that, I think that bodes well for them in the tournament, because you know what? You're going to get into those type of games. You're going to get into those games in the second round of the tournament where you're playing, against maybe a double-digit seed that is hungry, and you may not have your A game, but if you could still find ways to win, and despite leaving stuff on the table and despite not bringing your A game, I think that is a really good sign for Arizona to have a deep run in March.
Talking with Justin Spears from ESPN Tucson, covers Arizona for the Tucson Star. So the audio that we played from Tommy Lloyd, he was talking about how we've kind of gone through it. Arizona winning 3 in a row after those back-to-back losses, but to already talk like Arizona's been through the toughest part when they still have Kansas and Iowa State coming up is crazy to me. So what do you think he means when he says that, hey, we've kind of come out of it now on the other side?
Well, I think maybe that's his way of saying, okay, now we are somewhat back to normal as far as our rotation goes because Koa Pete probably going to be back very soon, whether it's this weekend or the next game on Monday against Iowa State. We'll see about Dwayne Aristode, but he's practicing. So I think, Tommy Lloyd's probably talking like, okay, we've gone through this stretch of games to where, we've had to use guys that we don't normally rely on. Now we're getting these two guys back. Yeah, we're going up against Kansas and Iowa State, but, we were right in the middle of this really hard stretch when we lost two players. And so Tommy Lloyd's like, okay, we're back to normal. Everything is back on track. And I think that's what he meant because I think that this stretch of games right here, this is that last test before really, the Big 12 tournament is going to be another test too. But, the Big 12 from top to bottom is such a hard league to compete in. And if you can go in these true road environments and win those kind of games, that's a really good thing for Arizona. And Arizona, they have two tough games, but fortunately for the Wildcats, those two games are at McHale Center, and they normally play pretty damn good basketball whenever they're at McHale. So it's a tough two-game stretch coming up, but Tommy Lloyd feels very confident that his team is back to normal, and they'll be back to looking like one of the most dominant teams in college basketball.
Yeah, so, okay, 2 straight losses. Obviously they have 2 losses on the season, so they're just terrible. But, is there anything to take away from those 2 losses in your opinion, or was it just like, yeah, you're going to lose games in college basketball in the Big 12?
Yeah, you're going to lose games
in
the Big 12. And it's so hard to win on the road. I'm really curious to see the record of road teams in Big 12 play this year. And, the 2 losses that Arizona suffered, they were one of them at Kansas. And I know people are going to be like, well, KU was without Darren Peterson, the potential number 1 overall pick. But leading up to that game, Kansas had multiple games, where they were able to figure things out without Darren Peterson. And in that moment, Arizona was trying to figure out things without Koa Pete for the first time ever. So, and also the game was at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. And it was on Big Monday, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Bill Self is literally 5,000-0 on Big Monday. So, it's hard to win at that place on Big Monday without Koa Pete. And then, the game against Texas Tech, Texas Tech is a really good team. McCaslin's a really good coach, and they were also playing against the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year in JT Toppin, who unfortunately went down with a season-ending injury right after that. But they lost to 2 really good teams that are definitely more than capable of getting to the Elite Eight and Final Four. And if that's your only 2 losses, and shoot, we're not even talking about the wins, fellas. We're talking about wins over Florida, over UConn, Alabama, Auburn, UCLA, all of those wins in the Big 12. They swept BYU. So, tough losses. You could take a little bit from those losses, but I think, if you look at the overall body of work, I don't think anybody in college basketball has a better tournament resume than Arizona.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Completely agree. They're the number 1 team in the country, in our opinion. With that said, in Kansas City here in a couple of weeks, who's the one team, if you're Arizona, you don't want to see in the Big 12 tournament?
Ooh, man. I think, we might actually get a little preview of that coming up here on Monday. I think Iowa State is such a really good team. And, Iowa State, they're right there in the Midwest. Arizona fans are going to travel well, right? You hear it all the time. Whenever they go on the road, you can hear the U of A chants in the background.
Yeah.
But Iowa State, to me, they are a Final Four caliber team and a team that's really capable of getting a number 1 seed. So I'd probably say Iowa State. But then again, man, never count out Kelvin Sampson and those damn Cougars, man. It seems like Houston basketball is like kind of like what Utah football is. It's like their recruiting classes are not sexy. You're not sitting there like, ooh, X player, he's going to be this fantastic NBA guy. but yet it seems like they're always producing All-American type of players, guys that just fit Kelvin Sampson's system, and they do it so well, and they are so damn tough. So I'd probably say Houston and Iowa State, and I'd probably say those are probably my two teams that I'd say will give Arizona some of the biggest fits.
All right, man. Thanks for your time, Justin. We love it. Justin Spears, co-host of Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson, on the beat for Arizona for the Tucson Star. Great to see you, hear from you, and we'll see you soon.
Have a good one, guys.
Justin Spears joining us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Kansas and Arizona tomorrow, 4 Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. That's the Arizona side. From your Kansas side, what's the number one thing that could dictate the outcome?
Well, I mean, the game at McAllis Center, right? I mean, this is, I think, what we're used to seeing in the Big 12, and that is, when you've got a home-and-home situation between two teams that, we're seeing, especially at the top 5 of this league, we're seeing splits. I mean, Kansas took care of business against Iowa State at home and then, got rolled by Iowa State at Hilton. And so Kansas took care of business against Arizona at home. And it's a great point by Justin. Everybody talked about no Derek Peterson in that game. It was sort of understated that there was no Koa Pete in that game. I think that was the first game he missed.
Yeah.
If he's back, it just adds more fuel to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't expect Kansas to win this game. These are two elite teams. Arizona, more elite than Kansas, but two elite teams nonetheless. And, I just don't expect them to get swept by Kansas in this season. It's a very difficult task, even if Peterson plays 35 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Peterson needs to go off for 40 if they have to have a shot this game, because they just need something crazy to happen. Because again, it just feels like it makes sense for these teams to split.
Well, and I love that was a 5-star comp from Justin Spears comparing Iowa State men's basketball to the way Utah football does things. They don't always have the 4-star, 5-star guys that, hey, he's going to be a one-and-done future 10-year guy in the league, but they just develop from within and they find 3 stars that turn into superstars.
Well, and great coaching and great defense. I mean, it's a great comp. What you're going to get. They are a great defensive team. They are very well coached. They maximize their talent. Yeah, no doubt about it.
All right, coming up next year on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, it is our almost daily now bracketology bubble watch segment. Evan Miyakawa from evanmia.com has underseeded teams that go further than anybody else and how to identify who those teams might be. Some Big 12 schools get a mention. And then Houston, what's their seed line look at after their recent slide? He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you by Modelo.
Check out the top plays from the Big 12 men's basketball starting 5.
Are lower than probably what he could be doing.
Ron Sheik with a bounce inside. Dak has a chance at a three-point play and the opportunity to tie the game.
He's facilitating everything, and you see the Cada with a double.
5-point BYU lead. They're on a 10-2 run currently. Trying to win on Jimmer Fredette, jersey retirement night. Lob up top to Dak, and he flushes it.
Like Kevin Young to go double out of that timeout, but you got to cut off. It's like an outside linebacker. You got
type of matchup comes about. One of those teams is going to have an impact on that offensive glass, and that ultimately could determine the outcome.
Great pass. Hargress finding Dak for the easy flush. Coming in here 16-10. Remember, they got off to that hot start at 12-1, but 4-9 in conference play, and they turn it over right there.
Ronchik there with a great rotation early.
And how about Dak?
And really seeking out great shots.
Drive by, but Dak erases it.
They have been able to, he pointed to the results. He told me that the Big 12 has the best record against all other power conferences and the best overall non-conference winning percentage.
Alley-oop to Benga Dak.
And it happens so quick. Once you get that big to commit, there's no weak side help rotate.
And they're cheering really loudly because they get free Shake Shack with 2 straight missed free throws. Dak on the other end.
Yeah, just a different team when he's in the game. He brings it on both sides. He's just always moving, always ready to make a
We are Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, brought to you the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Anthony Smith crushing it behind the camera, producing our show on the video side, and T-Chain's doing a phenomenal job on the audio side as we roll forward on a Fanatic Friday. Modelo fan rule number 19, get your thinking cap on. Rule number 19, you remember exactly where you were for the biggest win and the worst loss. Where were you during the 2008 National Championship game for Kansas basketball?
I was trying to decide if it was 08 or if it was 22.
Oh, yeah, you've won too many championships.
I mean, it's so hard to figure out.
Jumbled mess of championship memories.
Because if you're 22, I was there in the building. No big deal.
Super cool.
In 08, I had just graduated. My future wife, was still at school. She was a grade behind me, and I was in my first radio job in Moberly, Missouri. And so I drove back to Lawrence and watched it from Abe and Jake's Landing, which was a great bar that's now just a wedding venue in Lawrence. And so that was fun. And that was one of those, we watched the Final Four at Abe and Jake's, so we had to watch the national championship game at Abe and Jake's.
A little superstition tie-in.
And in terms of the worst loss, I'll go with Bucknell, my sophomore year, and because they lost back-to-back years to the Double Bs, Bucknell and then Bradley in back-to-back years. But Bucknell, I was in spring break. I was at a Red Robin burger joint with my dad watching Kansas Bucknell, because that was back in the day where it was hard to get the game that was not local because it was only CBS.
Right. So
that or the UNI one, maybe that's another one that would be. I remember where I was for that one too. So Modelo fan rule number 19. Yes. How about you?
Man, I would say best win.
Got to be the Sweet 16 a couple of years ago at Madison Square Garden.
That one, actually, I go back to the 2010 Sweet 16.
Because you don't want to give Jerome Tang any love?
Definitely that. But that was like a 3-overtime thriller. Gus Johnson had an iconic call when Jacob Pullen hit at the top of the key three where he just said, he's in shape. It's like, he is in shape. The dude's played 60 minutes and he's still canning threes. But I was at a buddy's house. There were 3 or 4 of us just going crazy. And then I gave K-State the ultimate kiss of death because as the clock was ticking down, I was looking up Final Four tickets. Because I thought, Butler? We won't lose to Butler.
Sure enough.
Sure enough, K-State lost to Butler. Worst loss, 1998 Big 12 championship game for football. I was there.
Oh, yeah.
At the Edward Jones Dome in St. Louis. Cried like a baby, 8th grade, me and my dad. And then for K-State's 20, would have been
8th grade, a little bit old to be crying?
Don't judge me, bro. I'd cry now.
No, sorry. 8th grade, a little bit old to be crying about sports?
I'd cry now about sports. Don't worry about that.
I only cry for sports when it's happy tears.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fair.
I just get mad now and scream and punch things.
That feels also very accurate.
On brand.
I'm going to get you a punching bag.
Why would I have a punching bag when I've got perfectly great people to punch?
Well, I've got my kids.
Yeah, come on. Just kidding. I would never do that.
And then 2013, K-State won a share of the Big 12 basketball regular season championship.
With?
Bruce Weber as the head coach.
Who'd they share it with?
Did they share it with Kansas? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Even though KU, I think, swept them that year head-to-head, but they tied in the standings, so they got a share. They get to the NCAA
Fighting
tournament.
Dean Wade's.
Yep. Dean Wade, Barry Brown, Angel Rodriguez, Shane Southwell. Best seats I've ever had as a fan for really any type of major event. I was almost courtside, 3 or 4 rows up, right there at midcourt, and took in K-State's first-round loss to the 13-seeded LaSalle.
Oof.
I don't even know their mascot, just LaSalle. They lost to LaSalle. That sucked.
Oof.
Right.
I don't remember who they lost to, but I do remember them having a really disappointing loss in the tournament that year.
Well, they lost to LaSalle as a 4 seed, and then the other time they were a 4 seed under Weber, they lost to UC Irvine.
Yeah, it feels like that LaSalle loss was the beginning of the end for Weber.
Well, that was his first year.
Okay, so then it was the other one.
It was UC Irvine.
UC
in
Irvine.
2019.
That's right. That was the one that was that's the beginning of the end for him.
Yeah. And
that was his first year.
Time is a flat circle. I am calling on ESPN2 tomorrow the Big West Showdown that features UC Irvine.
Wow.
So there's a lot of notes about that 2019 game against K-State, which was huge for the Anteaters. All right, Big 12 bracketology, Big 12 bubble watch. TCU on the bubble. They need a win in Manhattan against Kansas State. Here is Coach Jamie Dixon talking about just all the close games they've had this year.
We won a lot of games. I mean, we beat a Florida, we beat a Wisconsin early in the year. I mean, we only remember losses, but the wins are pretty good. And we're playing smart. We're winning down the stretch. We're doing 2-minute games at practice. We've made free throws down the stretch in the games. I think that's a lot of it, and I think our defense has been good enough. And the rebounding, I think the rebounding, we're really trending the right way rebounding wise. Our numbers have been consistently good, and we've won a lot of close games. It's funny, I had somebody text me and say, "Yeah, you won a close game." I'm like, we've just won 5 in a row that have been down to 1-possession games. So, yes, we lost the Kansas game. I know. I'm aware. We lost. It was a 2 months ago, and it was at Kansas, and a couple things didn't go our way. But we've won a lot of close games. We've won more than close games than anybody, and so that's what we've done. So, and we take pride in it. We take great pride in it. So. That's what we're trying to do. We really work on it down the stretch. I think our execution clock usage was good. I think we could defend it a little better, but when you got everybody on the floor and foul trouble, it makes it harder. And they're good. They're a very good team. They're very talented. They're very well coached. And it's just this league. Like you think, okay, they've won 5 or 10, but they're on the bubble. I mean, like this, they just saw them on the ticker there. They're on the bubble. This is the league. This is not the JV league. We're in the best basketball league in the country. We've been in it, and it's just and these teams are all in. I mean, there are resources they put into it. So we play against teams that are really, really care about basketball and put an immense amount of resources into their roster. So it's just it's what it is.
Jamie Dixon is maybe the most underrated coach in America. I just think what he does with what he has to work with financially, roster construction. They lose a bunch of guys in the portal last year because they can't pay them, but they bring back David Punch, who's their leading scorer. Massive uptick in production this year. They've won 5 of their last 6 games, all of them close. And the thing about TCU, they are the smallest power conference team in America, and they're top 3 in the Big 12 in blocked shots. They're top 5 in the Big 12 in rebounding margin. And they were one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the league until about 2 weeks ago. They closed out the West Virginia win by making their free throws. Same thing against Arizona State. They made their free throws when it mattered most. I believe a lot of that is Jamie Dixon.
Well, and it's interesting because Dixon brought up the close game thing, and I think this has been a really interesting part of the TCU season this year is they were not winning close games. He mentioned the Kansas game in particular because that's the one that stands out because they were in position to win that game and, just didn't. And it's incredible that they lost that game. But they lost by 4 to New Orleans to start the year. Remember, that they had a furious comeback and then lost down the stretch.
Yeah, they were down like 25 in the first half.
They lost by 4 to Michigan. Right, not a bad loss, but still, that's a close loss. They lost by 3 to Notre Dame. And then they hit that stretch where they lost 4 in a row, which included that Kansas loss, which was in some ways inexplicable. They got smoked by Arizona, but who doesn't? Then lost by 6 to BYU in the game that was a lot closer than that, and then lost by 3 to Utah. So it wasn't just the Kansas game. But after that game, they figured some stuff out. They won by 3 over Oklahoma State, and they have been winning all of these close games. And so I think like that they've turned a corner in that way. And I think so. You point out the free throw shooting. Like the number one thing you think about in close games is do you hit your free throws? If you don't hit free throws in close games, you're going to lose those close games. So I think the number one thing they figured out was how to hit more free throws. But, look, TCU is going to be a team, and I'm sure we'll get to this, that's underseeded, they can make a run. They have all of the ingredients when you look, and I continue to talk about this and bang this drum because I just want to help you out in your bracket a little bit and help out the Big 12. They're very experienced. They're one of the best rebounding teams. They're one of the best defensive teams. They're top 20 in rebound. They're top 20 in defense. They're very experienced. Like those are the pieces that you need to make a deep run in March as a 7 through 11 seed, which is probably where they're going to be. Mm-hmm. So I think again, depending on matchups, which is always the dependency. Like, this is a team that could absolutely make a run, but Dixon's a little bit wrong in his comments there. It wasn't just the Kansas loss. There were a lot of close losses early this season that have turned into close wins.
Yeah, definitely. They've won 9 of their last 12 games. They're 9-3 during this stretch. All right, let's get to this graph. We love graphs.
And by the way, I think they could win. I think they pretty much have to win this game, and they're in. Because you can lose at Texas Tech. Cincinnati game at the end of the year, I think, is probably a toss-up. But what they've done here and what they did in the non-conference should be enough with a win at K-State to get them in. They should not be on the bubble anymore.
I think the magic number for them is 20. You get to 20 wins, they're at 18. And I don't care how you get those next two. If you beat K-State and Cincinnati, that's it. If you win one game at the Big 12 tournament, you're in at 20. All right, this graph from Evan Miyakawa at evanmiya.com, potential underseeded teams based on bracketology. Essentially, he uses all of these analytical metrics, and then he puts together a chart. And underseeded teams in the NCAA tournament advance 69% further than other teams with the same seed. So break this down and what it means and what do you see?
Can you break it down? Because I'm bad at math.
Okay. Well, I would say that the black line in the middle.
You want to be above the black line.
Correct. Teams above the dotted line are considered significantly underseeded.
Sorry, yes.
Teams that are just above that thick black line are considered somewhat underseeded.
So what would Texas Tech be? Because Texas Tech looks like an outlier here to this graph. Does that mean they're going to be overseeded?
That means they would potentially be overseeded.
Got it.
Correct.
BYU too.
And I think that he's factoring in the JT Toppin injury.
So he's got the three biggest outliers here are from an overseeded standpoint are UCF, BYU, and Texas Tech, which is interesting. The Texas Tech and BYU ones seem like the injuries to Saunders and JT Toppin are why. UCF, I don't understand that. Do we see any Big 12 teams that are going to be underseeded?
Let's see. I see Houston. They would be underseeded. Iowa State is right at their appropriate seededness. And then outside of that, TCU is a team that way down there around 11 or 12 would be considered underseeded. So TCU and Houston would be the two that stand out to me from the Big 12. But UCF, BYU, and Texas Tech, for them being overseeded, I'd love to see more data into what goes into that because UCF seems super dangerous to me. They're healthy. Even without Riley Kugel, they pick up a massive win at BYU. He's not out for the year. When he gets back, I could see them. They, to me, would be a team that I would think going in would be underseeded that could make some noise.
Yeah, and I mean, with Themis Folks, like they're very experienced. You know, I mean, we talked about TCU and the experience factor being a huge indicator. I have not, though, looked recently at their defense and rebounding rate, which are also two important components of winning in the tournament. But I would imagine maybe that plays into this. Where let's see, Ken Palm defense, UCF is, well, there you go, 102nd. And their 83rd net rebounding, that's net rating. Well, their defensive rebounding rate, they're 24th and 60th in offense. So they're a decent rebounding team. They're a really atrocious defensive team.
What are your thoughts on the NCAA? They're putting a bunch of emphasis on this wins above bubble, WAB.
WAB. Which one is it? Is it WAB or WAB?
I like WAB better, personally. But
why?
It just, I don't know.
What's wrong with WAB?
It just flows better.
It looks like a WAB.
Yeah, it does. But
what do I think of it? Can you explain it to me like I'm a toddler?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to try to do because I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. Basically, they look at teams, and it's like teams that would be on the bubble, would they have more or less wins than you have? And it's this whole metric where like TCU's plus 1.89 or something like that. They have one or two more wins than other teams that would be on the cut line. But apparently it's this new metric.
No, I've heard a lot about it. I still don't understand it.
That's the best
I consider myself a fairly intelligent person.
I mean, I think you're pretty smart.
Pretty smart stretching it, but fairly intelligent. A man of fair intelligence.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say on my headstone when I die. Can you see that? Can you make sure that happens? A man of fair intelligence.
Mildly smart, this man.
Here lies a man of fair intelligence.
All right, latest bracketology has Houston as a 3 seed. Iowa State is the top 2 seed. This is Joe Lenardi's latest actual bracket. He's got the 1 seeds as Duke, UConn, Michigan, and Arizona. Then he's got Iowa State, the only Big 12 team on the 2 line. And then he's got Kansas and Houston on the 3. And he still has Texas Tech as a top 4 seed.
I'm asking ChatGPT to explain to me, like I'm a 10-year-old, what wins above bubble means. Let's see what it does.
Okay. I thought you were using Claude.
Sorry, I'm using Claude.
Are you using Claude?
I'm Claude.
Team Claude.
Anthropic. I'm trying to figure out how to get control over 7,000 vacuum robots.
Dude, I bet it's all over it. What is it?
How does your team's record compare to what a borderline bubble team would have done playing your exact same schedule? This is not Claude. I asked you to explain this to me like I'm a 10-year-old. Do I need to go younger? Explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old?
How do we set the bar? How do we set the bar for how many wins that would
Okay,
be?
imagine you and your friend both took the same math test, but your test had harder questions. If you both got a 70%, that's not really fair to compare.
No.
Yours was harder. Wob tries to fix that same problem for basketball teams. Okay, that's pretty good. Thanks, Claude. Here's a simple example. Say your team played a really tough schedule, and a bubble team would be expected to go 14-17 against those same opponents, but your team went 20-11. That means you won 6 more games than a bubble team would have, so your Wob's +6. Nice. If your team only went 12-19 against that same hard schedule, your Wob would be -2, meaning you actually did worse than an average bubble team would have.
I like it. I'm here for it. It's a great breakdown. Arizona has 9.9 wins above bubble.
So they're 9.9 Wob?
Yeah, they got a 9.99 Wob. And then it goes Houston at number 7, KU at number 9, 6.6 Wob.
Ooh, that's a good Wob right there.
And then Iowa State still in the top 10. They're number 10 at 6.5 Wob.
Okay, so let's look at the bubble teams. What's West Virginia's Wob?
All right.
Wob!
Big 12 teams. Got to do my sort. All right. UCF is top 25 Wob. They're 25th. And then after that, TCU is 45th.
And you said they're plus 1.8?
UCF is 3.2.
Sorry, TCU.
Yeah, TCU's. No, I made that number up earlier. They're 0.59.
Made that number
And then I was just using it as an example.
What else you making up?
Oklahoma State's 54th in the Big 12. And then after that, like Cincinnati.
54th of the Big 12?
In the country from the Big 12. It's a wheels off.
How many teams are in the Big 12, James?
All right, we got to get to Coach. 362 Division I basketball teams.
Thank you.
All play in the Big 12.
We'll see if Coach Norm Roberts can explain Wob to us.
Norm Roberts coming up next. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio. Here are the top plays from this week's Freshman of the Week.
Underway. Finally, Nichols comes away with it, 2-on-1, and why not get it to Jalea Davis for the lay-in?
And that was a shot that was certainly with some confidence as Sanaya Copeland kind of deflected that into her hands. It wasn't a clean catch, but was able to finish it, and Jalea Davis with a tough finish in between 2 Cougar defenders.
There's no doubt, bread and butter, run the high-low.
Yeah, she's going to see that all game.
Garrow now at 12. Nichols on the drive through the lane, kicks off to Canessa, rattles in and out. That was halfway home. Davis, the stick back. Copeland looking inside, always looking that first option down low, and Davis got it. The basketball there, 2 defenders, and a foul.
Such a good heads-up play here. You know when you see the high-low action from post to post.
It's it to Canessa. L. Evans, top of the circle 3. Williams tracks down the second chance. Inside to Davis, 3 pink jerseys, and the and one.
Finished by Jalea Davis, as you had mentioned there. 3 pink jerseys around her, and Jalea Davis wanting to...
Kansas getting the Jones turnover now back the other way with the basketball. They've been able to rest Samaya Nichols in this stretch as Kansas has exploded. Guerrero coming off a 21-point game at 14 at halftime to 17 now for the game. Loose 4 opportunity, and Davis gets the lay-in on the assist from Canessa.
Has been a big lift for this K-State squad.
This team has become a better defensive team since that blowout loss at Allen Fieldhouse. Nice backdoor play.
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. We welcome in the coach, Norm Roberts, our college basketball expert. Hey, Coach, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
So, want to get your thoughts on, man, it's bubble watch season. And, Coach, when you watch TCU, Joe Lunardi has TCU as part of the last four in. Do they pass the eye test? Do they look like a tournament team, in your opinion?
I think they are a tournament team. I don't think they should get in, and I'm not sure if they have it this way, before UCF. I don't think they should get in before them. I think UCF is a team that should definitely be in the field, what they've accomplished and what they've done and what Dawkins has done there. But I do think they're a tournament team. I do think they need to finish really strong here at the end.
You know, curious for your thoughts on this as we're talking with Coach Norm Roberts. I thought from a collective team standpoint and considering the minutes that Peterson put in, regardless of the 14 points he scored, it wasn't his best output. But I just thought from a team perspective, that was the best we've seen Kansas play all together this season on Monday against Houston. Again, it's not as if Peterson had this great game, but I just think collectively they played as well together as we've seen them play all year. Your thoughts?
I would agree with that. I would say it was probably the first game that they played where everybody on the floor was aggressive.
Yeah.
Was aggressive to either attack, to score, to set up other people, to look for other guys, not just rely on Darren. I thought for the first time, and a lot of that now had to do with Houston, because every time he had the ball, Darren, they put 2 to 3 guys on him. They trapped him. They were not going to let him get off to a good start. So I think a lot of it had to do with Houston's defense, with that it's impossible to beat them if you're not aggressive. You have to be aggressive, driving the ball downhill, attacking the paint, kick outs, then trying to attack again, because you're never going to score on the first side against Houston. Their defense is way too good. So I thought for the first time, everybody was aggressive throughout the whole game.
Coach, what's your take on Houston's recent 3-game slide? It was a gauntlet at Iowa State and then Arizona and then at Kansas. I thought they looked like they've lost their legs in the second half of a couple of these games. Are people overreacting to this 3-game losing streak?
Yeah, I think you're overreacting because Kelvin Sampson's going to get his guys going. But it also shows you how good the Big 12 is. The Big 12 is very good. And this is something that, I've been talking about all year with Houston. Houston is a terrific team. And I'm telling you, you cannot underestimate what Cryer and what Roberts did for that team last year. You cannot underestimate that. And I would say this, I can't remember the name of the young man that played for Houston last year, but the kid that came off the bench for them, the wing that came off the bench for him, that was a fifth-year guy, really gave them great minutes off the bench. They're really not getting that this year off the bench. They're not getting that. They're not having the ability to throw the ball to a big guy like Roberts, even if it's off the elbow where he backed you down, or you threw it to him at the elbow where he attacked and shot those floaters. He was a dangerous guy that could get 15 to 18 points. They really don't have that with their inside guys.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're talking with Norm Roberts here on Big 12 Radio. Anything just generally speaking about the conference that's standing out to you right now?
I would just say what you have now is you have the better teams are all playing each other here at the end.
Yeah.
So they're beating up on each other a little bit. And that is going to happen. Obviously the Iowa State-Texas Tech is going to be a huge game because Texas Tech had a great win, blowout win. They played terrific. You could always play pretty good or play with emotion after you lose a guy. After you lose a guy to an injury, everybody gets in it. Everybody's got to step up. Rah. You play with emotion. And you can get a good win, which they did. No missing topping. But now what happens is now guys this is your role now. This is who you need to be. can't just do it for one night. Now you got to do it for 6, 7, 8 more games or whatever it may be for them throughout the season. The other thing that happens is now other teams have had a chance to see how Coach McCaslin's going to play. So now they know the style. They know how they're going to utilize guys, and so now your scouting will be better because Topping's gone after a game they played. So now you kind of understand how you want to guard them and how you want to attack them. So it'll be a totally different game against Iowa State than what they had the other night.
Coach, what is the path for Texas Tech to pull off what would be a huge road win without JT Toppin, and then for Iowa State to hold serve at home?
I think that the biggest thing is Texas Tech's got to make threes. Obviously, they're going to become more of a jump shooting team. That's what they're going to have to be. They're going to have to be a jump shooting team and a team that can really defend and get out in transition, play off the high ball screens with Christian Anderson. Because what's going to happen now, Iowa State is going to trap the crap out of Christian Anderson. They're going to trap him. They're going to be, and they do that anyway. They're going to be physical. They're going to keep the ball on the side. They're going to pressure out. They're going to force them to drive it and try to make them drive it baseline where they can get those trap actions that they like to do. So they're going to be extremely physical. And let's be honest, every team in the league is much more physical at home than they are on the road. Kansas is, Houston is, Arizona is, all that. It's going to be a much more physical game. So they're going to be a very, very physical with Texas Tech and force them to have to make plays more off the bounce and within the three-point line than allow them to shoot threes.
That's a great point. Also, man, such a good point about Houston. Javier Francis, Myleik Wilson, and Terrence Arcedo are three guys that came off the bench that were major contributors for them last year that are no longer there. That, to your point, like they just don't have those guys this year. That is such a good point.
Wilson was a huge key. He beat us at Kansas.
Yeah, he did.
He beat us. He made plays. Remember, they got into foul trouble. He scored like 12 points in the first half against us. Then he made a huge three. He was a big-time role guy for them, and they really don't have that this year.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's a great – because when I look at Houston, I'm thinking, well, Uzon's in a different role. He's not shooting as good of a percentage. It's the Fleming's piece. Fleming's been so good. The ball's out of Uzon's hands. But I think you're right. Like, it's a little bit of that, but also they just don't have those bench contributions that they were getting. Not to the degree that they were getting it, for sure. As we're talking here with Coach Norm Roberts, I'd love for you to kind of take us inside the locker room right now. Like, what are teams going through? Like nobody's fully healthy. Everybody's got some sort of wear and tear and maladies you're dealing with. This is also kind of a weird stretch because you're so close to the end. You're so close to conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament. So how do you keep guys kind of with their eyes on the prize? Like, just take us to the locker room at this time of year right now and what teams are going through.
I think you're really trying to take every game, one game at a time. You're understanding, hey, we got to get better here. Here are some of the things that we haven't done well. We have to get better. Like in the case of Kansas and Arizona, that's a big-time game because it puts Kansas back in the race to try to win the conference championship if they can get beat again. Arizona could probably seal it pretty much if they win that game. So that's a huge game. A lot of things that are involved. It's going to be physical. You're telling your guys, bottom line is you're not hurt. You're not hurt. Everybody's a little tired. Who cares? Like, nobody's going to know what was me here. Nobody cares about that. So you're going to be saying that to the guys. And then you're going to say, guys, play with a free mind and have fun. Play with a free mind, have fun, attack, be aggressive, throughout the game. Don't worry about anything. The one thing I think people don't understand, there's not one coach in the Big 12 that is worried or thinking about the Big 12 tournament. There's not one coach thinking about that at all. You know what I'm saying? Hey, everybody likes the tournament. It's great. It's fun. It's rah-rah. All the teams together. It's great atmosphere in Kansas City, trying to get to the ultimate winner in the tournament. But the conference, the regular season is the war. That's the war. The conference tournament is kind of, a cherry on top. Let's play it because that next week is do or die. It's do or die. So you're just really trying to prepare to be at your best when you get to that next week after the tournament.
So with that said, Coach, what is, I guess, kind of the approach for the Big 12 tournament from a coach's seat?
You want to win every game because you want to go in the NCAA tournament on wins and on a good note. You want to do that. But you also understand, good gosh, I can't wear my team out. That's what you worry about. You know, we've been fortunate. We've won the Big 12 tournament championships 8 or 9 times or whatever it may be. We've won it, and then right away you're saying to yourself, God, we got to get our guys some rest. God, I hope we don't play on Thursday. I hope we don't have to travel far here. Okay, if we win it, we know we're going to be in the Midwest. We're not going to have to go too far, whatever. But, hey, we got to make sure these guys get rest. That is all those coaches are thinking about at the Big 12 tournament. They're thinking about winning it. They want to win it. But then they want to get their guys as healthy and as much rest as possible so that you're ready for that next week.
Talking with Coach Norm Roberts here on Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studio. Some great insight here from, one of the great voices in college basketball. When you look at this top 5 teams of the Big 12, and just historically in this conference, like there was a long stretch where Kansas dominated this league, and then there was a shorter stretch with Houston dominating this league. Like, this league has been dominated, certainly, and has been good at the top, but has it ever been this good at the top with these 5 teams doing what they're doing?
I don't know if it went as far as 5. I think at times it went to 3.
Yeah.
At times it went to, maybe 4 one year. But 5, like you have it right now, makes it really extremely tough and everything. And are we including BYU in that 5?
No, so I mean, good point. 6. It's probably 6 if we're including BYU.
And BYU, I mean, they're tough now. They're still going to be a tough out.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they're going to miss Richie, and it's so crazy. That's what I meant about guys playing with emotion and stuff like that. BYU played with great emotion, not having Richie back at home, all that stuff. And then the next time they played, they didn't play as well. And obviously got beat by UCF. So I think they're figuring out, coaches figuring out there on how they want to play, how they want to utilize their guys. Guys need to step up and play different roles. So it's always been really good at the top, but to be this deep, 5, maybe almost 6 deep, with such a great player like A.J. Debanza at BYU, no, I haven't seen it that deep. But I have seen it be really good at the top. West Virginia's always been good with Huggins. He had great teams. Oklahoma with Buddy Hield and those guys, great teams.
Yeah.
Us were really good. Iowa State was very good at that time, too, with Monty Morris and those guys. I mean, so many good teams, but never probably to 5 or 6.
Good stuff. Norm Roberts, the coach, joining us here on Big 12 Today. Thanks for your time, Norm, and squeezing us in. We appreciate it, and have a nice weekend.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you.
Norm Roberts, former head coach at St. John's, longtime assistant at Kansas. He's all over ESPN, part of their college basketball coverage. A loaded lineup in the Big 12 for your Saturday slate tomorrow.
And by the way, sorry to cut you off, but what he said about the Big 12 tournament is exactly what Kelvin Sampson told us last year, right? Like, the grind, the war is the regular season. Mm-hmm. It's fun to win. It's fun to win the Big 12 tournament, and obviously you want to win all the games. They're all competitive. They want to win all the games they play, but it's exactly what Kelvin Sampson said it was last year. The real championship is the regular season.
And then just going into, are we going to have a Thursday game for the NCAA tournament or a Friday game, and how much that can matter in terms of needing some rest, because most of those upsets happen on the first day in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, coming up next, we pivot back to the NFL draft from Saturdays to Sundays. Big 12 prospects at the NFL Combine and what actually matters. Yesterday it was linebackers and defensive linemen and kickers. Some shockers from the Big 12 in terms of guys that did really, really well, and we'll preview the defensive backs, the tight ends, the offensive line. We've got receivers coming up before we talk with Josh Edwards, the NFL draft writer for CBS. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio powered by Modelo.
Check out the top plays from the Big 12 men's basketball starting 5.
Work it inside to Bob Miller under 3 minutes to go in the half. And count the bucket. Great effort on the offensive glass by Mustafa Cham.
Bigs of Cham and Miller, and you see Miller just shooting over the top, and then Cham is right there on the interior.
As a turning point here in the second half. Henry turns the corner. Rejected up top by Cham. Good job by Tillery to get over the passing lane.
For first, which gives you an opportunity not only for a better shot, but also a rebound.
Bob Miller not there, but Mustafa Cham is. The Robin to Miller's Batman. Cham with the slam.
Carving out space, taking his time on the inside, getting up on the offensive glass.
Quick push up the floor. Tillery under 2 minutes to go here in the first half. Spotting up, Cham sticks the three.
How about this kid? Shoots that baby with confidence.
So it's Miller versus Tiller. And Miller is blocked on the inside. They stick with it. Counted and a foul. Cham.
Threats. Physically imposing. Really makes him work. Causes the miss.
Then Bidunga picks up the personal. 2-point game. Celestine to Cham. Oh, he's feeling it.
How about this kid? Banging left and right.
I think Roy Williams has already tested it. Guaranteed.
Then why not?
Wes Miller played at North Carolina. Inside. Cham rocks the rim.
Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. This is our From Saturdays to Sundays series, Big 12 Prospects, What Actually Matters for the upcoming NFL Draft. The Combine got kick-started yesterday with linebackers and defensive linemen and specialists. Today we've got defensive backs and tight ends, and then this weekend is when we slide into everybody else, correct?
Yeah. Yes, Saturday, Sunday, so it concludes on Sunday. So we'll kind of right now go through the big stories from yesterday because there were some big-time performances for Big 12 players yesterday. Today will be the defensive backs and tight ends, and then over the weekend, offensive line, wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, obviously everybody else. But, I mean, you had to be like me, Modelo in hand yesterday, just glued watching the Combine. No?
Yes.
You weren't? Okay.
Yes.
Are you a full-time fan?
I'm a full-time fan.
Or are you watching...
Not a part-time fan. I'm a full-time fan.
Or are you watching some, Red Letter Diaries show with your wife?
Dr. Phil, 3 p.m.
That's right.
Yesterday was the day of TCU, by the way. Linebacker Caleb Elarms-Orr balled out. He had a top 340 time, ran a 4.47 40, had a 1.59 split, a 40-inch vertical, showed elite speed, explosiveness, really didn't have a weak category. And then the other takeaway for me was Jacob Rodriguez. I thought his 40 time was serviceable, a 4.57, didn't really blow anybody away. But then his 3-cone was the best overall, 6.9. His shuttle drill was a best overall, 4.19. He had a really impressive split. He showed elite short area agility, which is sub-package NFL value immediately day one.
Yeah, all right, I'll circle back to those two because I don't think anybody helped themselves out more than Malachi Lawrence. I mean, among edge rushers, he was phenomenal. He ran the 40-yard dash in 4.52, had a 1.59 second 10-yard split, as well as the 40-inch vertical jump and 130-inch broad jump. So the vertical jump at 40 inches tied him for second among all edge rushers. His 40 time was the best among edge rushers at 4.52. So I don't know that anybody helped themselves as much as Malachi Lawrence did. Lee Hunter he also had a phenomenal showing. Explosiveness, power, great size for an interior defender. I mean, for his size and his explosiveness, you're getting an interior pass rusher right away. And I think the league, the NFL in particular, when you look at what the Seahawks just did and what the Eagles just did, it's not just about edge rushing. It's collapsing the pocket from the middle, right? It used to be you use the middle to allow for the edge rushers to tee off. And now we're seeing a lot of interior rushers. And Lee Hunter, I think, is going to be a first-round pick based on the need that teams have for interior rushers. I know he's 24, going to be 25 when the season starts, but for his size and explosiveness, it's incredible. When you consider Lee Hunter as part of that defensive front with Malachi Lawrence and Nigel E. Kelly, it's kind of amazing they weren't better.
Yeah.
But he excelled in the pass rush and run and club drills. I think Lee Hunter did a really good job, and I think he gets into the first round because of that. All right, let's circle back now to the two you talked about, because if Malachi Lawrence had sort of the best day for any Big 12 player prospect in terms of improving their draft status, well, Caleb Elarms-Orr was not too far. He hit that number one time for a 40-yard dash among all linebackers, including Sonny Styles, who's just athletically on a different level. They had the same 40-yard dash time at 4.47, which is a 1.55 10-second 10-yard split. Also the 40-inch vertical, which, that speed and these dudes are freaks. So tied for second among linebackers behind only Sonny Styles. So Sonny Styles is going to be a top 10 pick. Caleb Elarms-Orr tied him in the 40-yard dash and was just a bit behind him in the vertical jump. So that's ridiculous. And then you mentioned Jacob Rodriguez, who, he was ninth among linebackers for his 40-yard dash speed. But if we're being honest, I don't think anybody expected him to run a good 40-yard dash.
Agreed. Him being sub 4.6 surprised me, and I thought was a plus for him.
It was tied for sixth among linebackers with his vertical jump at 38.5. Broad jump was 10.5, which was tied for third among linebackers. So, but then you hit on it. Some of those, none of this should have surprised us. Of course, his short area quickness is really good. Of course, his long speed's not great. you're getting a great 3-down linebacker. You're getting a guy that is going to patrol the middle of your field and be a tackling machine for a long period of time. In terms of his coverage skills, that I think is the thing that people will be most concerned about with the speed. But I think if you turn on the tape, I'm not concerned about his 40-yard time and his coverage skills. Like, I think this is still a legit 3-down linebacker. Somebody's going to get a steal day 3 with Jacob Rodriguez. Somebody's going to get a steal with Jacob Rodriguez. Jake Golday had a really good one. Top 5 in vertical jump, strong explosive numbers, high IQ, 2-level defender. So, overall, I think there were a lot of guys that really improved their draft status. Dante Corleone did not have a great showing. He graded out as the heaviest at 340 pounds and measured the shortest at 6 foot and a half. So he was the shortest and heaviest for defensive tackles. So and he projects as a late day 3 UDFA guy. My guess is there's no shot he's going to go in this draft. He's what he tested at, and then the medicals I think are going to take him off a lot of boards. I think he could be an NFL player. I think the world of him, but I think for a guy that dominated this league and was really good in college football, I'm not sure that he's going to make it on Sundays.
He benefited so much by NIL. He got a really nice payday from Cincinnati and was really smart with his money, invested in a home that he rents out. So he set up, he's going to have a very successful future and has put him in a position to chase his NFL dream. Because if you're not in the NFL, you're making peanuts trying to chase that dream. I thought Nnamdi Obiazor from TCU had a really good day and helped his stock. He had the best burst, a 1.56 split. David Bailey just checked all the boxes.
Oh, yeah, we even talk about David Bailey.
Just checked all the boxes.
By the way, he's a freak.
Top 3 in just about everything across the board, ran a 4.5 flat. And then Jack Kelly, the BYU linebacker, had the best shuttle time of 4.19.
But, I mean, think about that. He ran a 4.5 40.
At his size. Jake Gaudet ran a 4.62. And David Bailey ran a 4.5.
I mean, yeah, he's absurd. He's going to be a top 5 pick. He's as good of a 3-down pass rusher as you can have in the league. I mean, we saw him. He is as good against the run as he is as a pass rusher, and he is legit. And speaking of that Texas Tech defense, Rello Height, I don't think he tested very well. I mean, he is what he is. He is a situational pass rusher. He is very good getting after the quarterback. He had 11 sacks?
Yep.
He's going to rush the passer. Not great against the run. I think weight-wise, he was the smallest, lightest amongst edge rushers. So
and he didn't run a great 40, a 4.64, but he's a guy that you draft just to put on the field for 3rd and 12.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Situational pass rusher, a guy that can get after the quarterback.
So today, defensive backs go. Bud Clark from TCU. Here is Kansas State safety VJ Payne on how his time with K-State prepared him for the NFL Combine.
The maturity level at K-State is up there. The standard, we talk about the standard a lot. Just holding that standard and bringing it with me here, showing the interviews 10 minutes ahead of time, or maybe earlier than that, and then also just carrying yourself with like you respecting others, saying yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and stuff like that. That just helps me just carry that on throughout my journey here, and I appreciate them just instilling that in me so I can carry it on.
So today, defensive backs and tight ends, that's K-State's VJ Payne. What are the numbers that matter the most to you today?
Yeah, I mean, cornerback, 40-yard dash is going to matter. You need to have speed getting down the field and cover a lot of areas. So 40-yard dash is going to matter, and I think in that, 10-yard splits as well, but maybe less so when we talk about the big guys up front, to where you need short area, small area explosiveness. So, 40-yard dashes for corners and safeties, that's a huge deal. Also the 3-cone, right? Ability to swivel hips, talk about that a lot. The bend, right? The athleticism, that's a huge part of playing that position. I think for safeties, vertical jump, right? If you're going to play center field as a safety, a free safety, you've got to have a high vertical. So, look at the jumping one for safeties is a big one. I think the short shuttle and the vertical jump are, for a cornerback, okay, but mostly they're looking at the 40-yard dash and then the safety 3-cone and short shuttle, sort of like but mostly it's the vertical jump and the composite profile from that 40-yard dash for safeties. Tight ends also going today. I think the broad jump, that's a big one for them. And then size-adjusted speed, right? So you're looking at the 40, you're looking at the 10, right? Short area quickness, explosiveness. Those are some of the drills to look out for today out of the guys that are going to be going for today's slate, the defensive backs and the tight ends.
In terms of projections, so Michael Trigg is projected to be the second best tight end in this draft, according to NFL.com's Combine Tracker. They go through projected grades. Michael Trigg at number 2, and then you've got Joe Royer, a top 7 tight end. There's a lot of meat there within the Big 12. I can't wait to see what Trigg runs.
Michael Trigg is going to test off the charts. I have a feeling he's going to run the fastest 40. He's athletically at a different level. Trigg, and I'm trying to think of the tight end group at large outside the Big 12, but it feels like tight end is one of the better positions the Big 12 is going to have. I don't know if Trigg is projected as a first-round pick, but
there's really only like one guy, Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon.
That's right, Sadiq. Yep.
He's the big name. And then Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt is a guy that's supposed to be like a second-round-ish pick. But I think Trigg has second, third-round potential.
Well, and for the Bears last year, they took Colston Loveland with their first pick. And, everybody thought about the other tight end at Tyler Warren, and we're like, why'd they take Loveland? The Bears were able to line Loveland up outside, inside. So he's a tight end that they used as a wide receiver who could also block. I don't know how Trigg's blocking grades. I didn't look at it that closely, but Trigg is the type of guy you can line up inside or outside, right? Like he's not a traditional tight end from an athleticism standpoint. So I think teams will look at what Colston Loveland did last year for the Bears and look at Trigg and think, again, without having the blocking information in front of me, because Colston was also a really good blocker, just the fact that you can line him up outside as a receiver or inside, I think gives Trigg a huge advantage.
He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is our From Saturdays to Sundays Big 12 prospects, what actually matters, and things to be looking for at the NFL Combine. And up next, we'll talk with Josh Edwards, NFL draft writer for CBS Sports, joins us here at the top of the hour. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.
Here are the top plays from this week's Freshman of the Week.
And upon replay, not a ton there, but Bird will take it. As Cincinnati tacks on one more. Olivia Hamlin for 3 right off the bench.
And then a couple transfers in the mix. A lot of newcomers, and they have just continued to stay positive and still fighting them, move on, and we're seeing it.
Olivia Hamlin now has 5 points. An air ball from Cincinnati. BYU running with numbers 3-on-1. Hamlin scores it on the assist from Cannon. So Olivia Hamlin was 7 of BYU's 19 points.
Those easy looks out in transition.
Another steal. Hamlin ahead of everyone. Perry giving chase. And Hamlin wanted a foul. She makes the layup. She's got 9 first quarter points. It's Kylie Torrance. Hamlin will try a left corner 3 and gets a shooter's bounce. Hamlin with 13 on the shot clock. Around the screen from Rokel. Nothing there. Matched up with Thomas. Drives around Thomas. Gets to the hoop and scores. Big bucket for Olivia Hamlin.
Loose ball. Gibbs got it. It's a 5-on-3. That means open from the corner is Hamlin, and we're tied at 10. She had 16 in that win over Utah last month. Hamlin gets inside of White and brings it back up to 18.
I think winning for them, they know how that would have ended, but not being able to start out with one tonight is just not the start that they had hoped for.
Hamlin out of the corner for 3.
Back inside Big 12 today, here on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo, a Fanatic Friday from Saturdays to Sundays. It's our NFL Combine series, and we welcome in Josh Edwards from CBS, husband, father, CBS Sports NFL Draft writer. Hey, Josh, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we're looking forward to the defensive backs and the tight ends here in Indianapolis today. So yesterday the stage was set pretty well with the edge rushers and the defensive tackles, so excited to get back to it today.
Yeah, man, we were just going over some of the guys from the Big 12, and I want to start with Malachi Lawrence, who Ari brought up from UCF.
Yeah.
And you wrote that nobody helped himself as much as Malachi Lawrence. What did his day look like, and what impressed you the most?
Yeah, and it's just been a continuation of the whole process for him so far. He's kind of nailed this pre-draft process. Somebody that, was probably more on a early day three type trajectory once the season had ended, and all he's done is create positive momentum for himself. Coming out yesterday, running incredibly fast. I think it was like a 4.54. I think I don't have it sitting in front of me, but looked really explosive. He was good through the drills. Showed a little bit of power. He's got ideal size. So it's a loaded edge rusher class. But you're talking about potentially moving up anywhere from the fourth round and, into the top 50 potentially, I think, with the workout that he put forward. So he has asserted himself, very well in this edge rusher class, and now deserves to be one of the first mentioned come April.
When you kind of look at these numbers historically, are players getting more and more freaky?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, when you consider the resources that they have at their disposal, nutritionists, weight room staff, you've got, the bioengineering type stuff where they're able to track your every movement, know when your muscles are getting fatigued, know how to support those muscles when they are getting fatigued. There's just so many resources that are available to athletes today. And if you're someone that's, willing to put in the time and make the most of those resources, then you really have no excuse not to be at your peak coming into an event like this. And, obviously somebody like Malachi Lawrence has to this point.
What were your thoughts on David Bailey?
He kind of checked every box. We kind of knew that he was a little bit more of a sawed-off pass rusher, but somebody that's incredibly explosive, dynamic. He can bend at the waist, flatten to the quarterback. He has the quickness to shoot gaps and impact the quarterback that way. So you really saw just kind of the fluidity that he brings to the position. And I think he took his game to another level coming over from Stanford. So he is certainly positioned to possibly be that number 2 overall pick to the Jets. I think it's, incredibly interesting there with the Jets making that pick because they have a little bit of a history taking one of those linebacker edge rusher types out of Ohio State in the past with Darren Lee. So I'm kind of interested if they go down that path again. Or if you're someone like Aaron Glenn, who maybe your seat's getting a little bit hot, are you more comfortable taking a player that's ready-made, can make an impact from day one, like David Bailey? So I think he is certainly in that conversation as early as number 2 overall.
Yeah, I'm curious for the discussions, at the Combine from teams and analysts around the linebacker position. Off-ball linebackers have really in recent history not been a huge premium or priority for teams early in the draft. But this class is really good and loaded there, and then especially when you consider guys that maybe are versatile hybrid safety linebacker types or have the makeup to be that. I think Lander Barton, his athleticism could be a potential, hybrid type guy. I'm just kind of, especially, and we've talked a lot about the, what Imenware did last year for Seattle in that similar role. Like, is there a lot of talk around the draft and the combine around that?
Yeah, the phrase "building a basketball team" has always been used in reference to the wide receiver position because you want different skill sets. You want somebody that can work out of the slot, be explosive with the ball in their hands, but you also want somebody that's taller that can play above the rim. I think the phrase is just applicable to an entire team now because you need a 3-and-D type on defense where you don't necessarily need that player to play all 3 downs for you. But in certain situations, you have somebody that you can bring off the bench to fill a specific role. I think just seeing the level of versatility that players are bringing now to combat these spread offenses where teams are using every inch of the football field is incredibly valuable. I mean, you're talking about Nicky Manwari, but I think teams are seeing the value in a linebacker that can cover from sideline to sideline as well. That was one of the first things that Mike McDonald did when he went to Seattle, is get a linebacker that could fit his scheme like Ernest Jones. It was a priority for him in Baltimore when he went and they traded for Roquan Smith. So the person that has built the Super Bowl winning defense has shown that he values the linebacker position, and as we know, it's a copycat league. So other teams are going to be looking to get a little bit more reliability and range out of that linebacker position, in addition to having that flexible safety who's able to play down in the box but also drop back in coverage.
Josh, where do you think Jacob Rodriguez gets drafted?
I think he helped himself. Everybody knew how intelligent he was. He's a great processor. He is one of those guys that plays sideline to sideline. You can trust him to be exactly where he needs to be. And then he came out and he had a good day yesterday in terms of the athletic testing. So I think he's firmly in day 2 at this point. He's a little bit shorter, so maybe a little less than ideal in terms of size. Maybe that limits his ceiling as to where he is taken. But you're definitely talking about somebody that could get into the back end of the second round, I think, and certainly before the day ends on Friday.
Any other kind of news and notes from yesterday? I mean, Sonny Styles is a freak. Anything else that kind of stood out to you from what we saw yesterday?
Not so much yesterday. The biggest, I think, would be Caleb Banks, the defensive lineman from Florida. Everybody knew that he was big. Everybody knew that, he had long arms. So that part was not necessarily surprising. But he just continued to check boxes, running the 40-yard dash in, I believe, 5.05 seconds. Just kind of helping himself assert himself in that defensive line group. And I think Lee Hunter from Texas Tech really showed himself well also. I don't know that there's going to be this consensus first defensive tackle off the board, but I think what we saw from Hunter yesterday, as well as just, his demeanor, his personality on the sideline, I think that'll endear himself to some of the teams in the league. So he's going to be in that conversation to be one of the first defensive tackles taken. But aside from Styles and Reese, I would have to mention, Caleb Banks is one of the ones that has helped himself yesterday.
Talking with Josh Edwards, writes for CBS Sports, NFL Draft, a guru joining us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. You guys were talking about the wide receiver position and building that basketball team of wideouts. Is this a deep class, and how does Jordan Tyson from Arizona State fit in?
It's a very deep class. I think that's, arguably the greatest strength of the 2026 draft class. I could understand an argument for the edge rushers, but I think this wide receiver group is really what excites me. And we're going to be talking about that on CBS Sports Network here shortly, actually. But Jordan Tyson is currently my number 1 wide receiver. I have a hard time just forgetting how special he is when he's on the football field. I understand the concerns, with soft tissue injuries and things of that nature, and maybe that scares off some NFL teams. But if you're just talking about the player and what he brings to the football field, somebody with a really well-rounded skill set, he can play inside, he can play outside, he's electric with the ball in his hands, but he can also create separation down the field. So for me, he's still wide receiver 1 in this draft class, but it's incredibly deep. I think you can find quality receivers into day 2, even into day 3, that we're going to look back in 2 or 3 years and say, the 2026 draft class is really what allowed teams to kind of reshape their wide receiver rooms. And obviously the Big 12 has some of those guys this year, Reggie Virgil, Josh Cameron, a few of those other guys in the mix as well. So it's a really deep group, and I'm excited to see what they do on the field.
Curious for your thoughts on the day today. Yesterday we were talking about previewing, defensive line and linebackers, and the 40 is not a really big, not important. It's more of the 10-yard split that matters. Today the 40 matters. Cornerbacks, to a degree, tight ends. But what else do you think are important drills at the combine for the guys that are going today?
I think it's just seeing the hip fluidity, being able to, yes, have the speed to cover routes vertically, but also be able to open up and transition across the football field. I think you can see that in their back pedal and some of the drills that they do today, how comfortable they are opening their hips and transitioning across from one plane to another. So I think you can definitely see some of those movement skills. And so much emphasis is just being able to stay on the line. I know everybody is enamored with how fast they do it, how nice it looks, but you have to be staying in a line in a lot of times as well. The gauntlet, that's incredibly important for the wide receivers. You got to be working down the line instead of drifting, because if you're a cornerback that's going to drift in zone coverage, you're going to be out of position. You're not going to be able to make the tackle. So teams want to see you be able to follow the guidelines of the drills that they have set forth. And I think just seeing that hip fluidity in addition to the 40-yard dash, as you noted, which is incredibly important, probably most important for the cornerbacks and the wide receivers, I think that's what NFL teams are really looking for today.
Josh, I know we're only going into like day 2 at the Combine, but any insight into NFL teams that there's a hunch that they're going to be super aggressive in this draft?
Yeah, I think you may have seen one of my tweets, because I think I talked about that yesterday. I've talked to a few people this week, and I can't get over what the Cowboys have done in the past calendar year, and it's out of their character, I would say, to be aggressive relative to what we had seen, prior to the Micah Parsons and the Quinnen Williams trade. I think there was a narrative that maybe they weren't willing to be aggressive. They were playing it more conservative. But when you look at the fact that they went out and they traded for Quinnen Williams, who is still a very good player, but he's, down the road in his career, you've got a quarterback in his 30s in Dak Prescott. You're potentially giving a lot of money to CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens at the wide receiver position. To me, this feels like a team that is willing to over-leverage itself in the present to be more of a factor in the postseason. They've got a couple of first-round picks, so, do you turn that into a veteran? Are you part of those Max Crosby trade deals, or is this an opportunity for them to possibly move up the board a little bit and get an impact player or two on defense? The Eagles were kind of the model for it a couple of years ago. They went out, they got Quinyon Mitchell, they got Cooper DeJean, and that really changed the tone of that entire defense. And it just so happens that the Cowboys have a need in the secondary as well. So, do they go up and they get one of those linebackers that we've already discussed, the Sonny Styles? Do they get, a Caleb Downs or someone of that nature? I just think, given the resources that they have at their dispense this offseason, the Cowboys make sense as somebody that could possibly be a little bit more aggressive than we've been accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, and this, I think it's also important to note, Josh, and would love for you to speak to this. This is also, as these players are, essentially trying out for teams, also an opportunity for teams to discuss trades, and I'm sure there's a lot of early discussions in terms of free agency. Just give us a sense here of what's happening, behind the scenes at the Combine.
Yeah, without question. The Combine is, potentially the greatest social event of the year for NFL teams. It's an opportunity to let their hair down, so to speak, go out and see a lot of the people that they aren't accustomed to seeing day to day over the course of the year, have those conversations, because it's the ideal timing. The new league year starts here in a couple of weeks. You have an idea of what you're hoping to do with your roster. Maybe some of the players that are on your team are not a part of that vision that you have. So you have conversations with your buddies around the league over a drink at a bar or something like that, and then it goes on from there. We've seen that in the past. We've seen that already this week. The Jets and the Titans, orchestrating a trade that would send Tavondre Sweat from the Titans to the Jets in exchange for Jermaine Johnson. Robert Saleh obviously has intimate knowledge of the Jets roster, having been the former head coach there, so that was an easy conversation for them to have. But those conversations are happening on a daily basis. There's some teams that choose not to be here, but that is absolutely happening. I think some of the popular names that tend to come up are A.J. Brown, Max Crosby, of course. So I think it's going to be active probably here after we leave the Combine. That's when stuff will kind of start leaking out, probably a few deals. But those are absolutely happening, absolutely.
Awesome stuff. Man, Josh, can't wait to see what the day brings to the table today. We appreciate your time and great insight.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
Awesome stuff. Josh Edwards from CBS Sports. He is the NFL draft writer for CBS Sports, NFL draft guru. A lot of exciting things for Cowboys fans, which I know we have a lot in the area in our listening audience. And then also just the Big 12 showed up yesterday in a big way. When you've got guys like Malachi Lawrence, Jackie Marshall, the defensive tackle from Baylor, had a really good day. David Bailey, as Josh alluded to, checked all the boxes. And then you've got guys like Elam Zor, the linebacker from TCU, Obiazor, the linebacker from TCU that had really good days, and Jacob Rodriguez. Day 2, day 3 at worst. Josh said he thinks he's solidified himself as a day 2 pick.
Yeah, I love this stuff. I just can't get enough of it. The draft to me is so much fun, like especially in the work that we do, kind of seeing, how guys that we've watched their entire careers unfold, how they perform. I mean, a guy like Lee Hunter who played at UCF, transferred to Texas Tech, like he's been around the Big 12 for a long time, many years that we watched him play football. So to see him sort of explode on the national stage, it's like, yeah, where have you been? This guy's been a player, and there's going to be a very interesting discussion between him and Caden McDonald. Caden McDonald is a run-stuffing, soon-to-be 21-year-old, freak large human being from Ohio State that doesn't really grade out as a great interior pass rusher. So, whereas Lee Hunter is a soon-to-be 25-year-old interior pass rusher who's got great size. And so I think there's going to be discussion in terms of who's the first defensive tackle off the board, because it's like, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? And I think the age will play a factor in that. I mean, you've got a Caden McDonald who's going to be 21 when next season starts, whereas Lee Hunter's going to be 25 when next season starts. But one guy is, like, what you're going to get. You're going to get a run-stuffing, huge mountain of a man, and Lee Hunter is also a mountain of a man who is athletically at a different level in terms of rushing the passer in a league that, demands more interior rushers. So that's going to be a really interesting discussion when it comes down to defensive tackles in the first round. And again, we talked about this yesterday, but there's projections from scouts that suggest 8 defensive ends going in this draft, in the first round, 8 defensive ends going in the first round of the draft, 8 edge rushers going in the first round. So, will that put Lee Hunter in that conversation? I just think that's an interesting dynamic too.
Yeah, good stuff. Awesome stuff. NFL Draft. We will continue this series on Monday. We'll recap all the exciting numbers from Big 12 standouts that take place over the weekend. We'll do that on Monday. Coming up next here on Big 12 Today, we'll be talking with, here at the bottom of the hour,
check out the top plays
Jimmer
from
Fredette,
Big 12 men's
the
basketball.
Jimmer Mania superstar from BYU. He had his jersey retired a couple of weeks ago at a BYU home game. Jimmer Fredette is joining us here in about 8 minutes on Big 12 Today. We'll go ahead and take a timeout and preview this interview and all the other Big 12 basketball games for this weekend after this timeout. We are brought to you by Modelo, and you're watching us on Big 12 Studios. Check out the top plays from Big 12 men's basketball starting 5.
And going pretty well so far. 5-0 lead for the Knights as they try to get a win over the Hurricanes. Folks gets to his spot. He has been so good late in games. Bull does a good job catching that bounce pass from Burks. Again, late clock. Folks has the answer.
John Bolin Stillwell inside. So while he is a capable scorer, as he's going to go create an easy bucket for himself right here, will he dunk it? Oh, kind of got us excited there.
Burks with 5 on the shot clock finds Folks. He'll have to do it himself, and he does.
I really thought I had all their non-conference home games, Tony. I thought he would wear down by this time of year. He only weighs 175 pounds, and he looks like this is his first game, how hard he's going.
Terrence Brown continues to be in rhythm. He now has 8 in the early going of this game.
Terrence Brown just hotter than a cheap pistol here in the early going, which is a little bit unusual. UCF is 3rd in the Big 12 in three-point shooting at over 37%.
Bull was it back for Folks, and on the reverse, Folks now with 8 points.
And once again, Terrence Brown just scores in so many different ways.
So does Folks. The turnaround is good. Holds himself so accountable. Teammates do the same. There's on the fast break, Terrence Brown comes up empty. On the other end, there goes Folks.
We are just moments away from having Jimmer Fredette join us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Jimmer Fredette, former BYU guard, played there from 2007 to 2011. The 2011 National Player of the Year, 2011 NCAA scoring champion, scored 29 points per game, led the country that year, scored over 3,000 career points at BYU, and in 2011, the year after the K-State BYU game in the second round, he guided BYU to the Sweet 16. That was their last Sweet 16 prior to last season. He was drafted 10th overall in 2011 by Milwaukee, traded to the Kings, played in the NBA for a few years, and then he went overseas and averaged some insane numbers over in China, multiple scoring titles. I mean, this dude was putting up like 37, 38 points per game overseas and had a long, lengthy, very successful overseas career.
Yeah, I mean, he put up some ridiculous numbers, which is how Jimmer Mania existed. I mean, he had a 47-point game against Utah where he shot 6 of 9 from 3 in a win for BYU over Utah. He dropped 43 versus number 4 San Diego State in the Marriott Center. And then in the tournament, nobody who could forget 35 points he dropped in Gonzaga to help BYU get to the Sweet 16. That was back in 2011, his senior season. And, I think he had a game overseas in Asia where he scored 75 points.
Played for the Shanghai Sharks.
75 points in a game. And I want to say that he represented USA in the Olympics in that 3v3 deal that they had.
So when he was over in China, over here it was Jimmer Mania. But when he was in China, they gave him the fan nickname Jimmo Dashin, which translates to the Lonely Master. How cool is that?
Why was he lonely?
I think it was just kind of a overarching, I don't want to say stereotype, but a lot of American basketball players that are playing overseas in China. Right. Jimmer's on with us now. Jimmer Fredette joins us here on Big 12 today.
Jimmer, were you lonely in China?
And there are some lonely times over in China, but it was, you guys talking about Jimo Dashen?
Yes.
The Lonely Master?
Yes, you said it. You said it way better than I did.
Well, I can give you the background of that story real quick because I thought it was interesting at first, right? So I was on the bus after a game, and my 7'3" center came to me. Matt, his name is Max, right? He played at University of California. He was one of the only guys that spoke like perfect English on the team. So he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, Jimmer, do you know what they're saying about you?" And I was like, "No, Max, I don't speak Mandarin. What are they saying?" And he was like, "Well, they're calling you Jimo." And I was like, "Okay, great. Like, I understand that's what they say, but in China, that they always call me Jimo because they can't really pronounce the ER, right? So they can't say Jimmer. So because of that, they say Jimo. And I guess in Mandarin, Jimo means lonely, right? And I was like, they're calling you Jimo Dashen, which means like the Lonely Master. And I was like, that's a terrible name. Like, why are they calling me that? That doesn't sound good. He's like, no. It's a good context. He's like, when they say that, it means like you're lonely, but at the top of the mountain and no one can reach your level.
Yep.
He's like, you're like the best. And I was like, all right, that's much better. We can go with that. That sounds like a great plan idea. And they started calling me Jimo Dashen ever since. And it stuck. That's for sure.
Yeah, it feels like a cultural disconnect there. Where like in America, I don't know
Yes.
that would be a good thing, but I can understand in Chinese culture how that might be a good thing.
Correct. Exactly. But I was lonely over there too, like actually lonely because my family wasn't there. So, I
Right.
mean, it was a double meaning for me. My wife and kids at the time were mostly home. And, so it was, there was double meaning there.
Well, from Jimmer Mania to your jersey in the rafters and your legacy at BYU, that incredible 2011 Sweet 16 season and Player of the Year and scoring champ, the jersey retirement. And Jimmer's joining us because his jersey just went up in the rafters at the Marriott Center. When you saw that jersey go up, was it pride? Was it relief? Was it nostalgia? What were the emotions that came with that moment?
Yeah, it was, definitely a lot of pride and no, I wouldn't necessarily say relief. I'd just say excitement and emotional. It's one of those things. There's not many jerseys retired at BYU. I was the fifth from the men's side, and that dates all the way back to the 50s, so it's a very special thing. There's a long kind of list that you kind of have to go through to get approved to even, be considered to have your jersey retired at BYU. So it's definitely a true honor. And they treated us super special that weekend. Like, they really did. They went all out. The detail was amazing. It was incredible to just see all of my former teammates and coaching staff and people that were kind of there when I was there, kind of helped me through that process, which was an amazing feeling. So, I mean, to have my family there with me, with my kids, and them to kind of understand it and know that they'll remember that moment, was really, really special. So just the emotional and, very uplifting weekend. and very tiring as well. We did a lot, so it was really, really a fun time.
Do you live in Utah now?
I don't. I actually live in Colorado. My wife is from Littleton, Colorado, just south of Denver. We've been here for 14 years, so this is home for us and close to her parents, and it's been awesome.
I'd imagine if you lived in Utah, like everybody still remembers Jimmer and Jimmer Mania. What about Colorado? Is there like, are people still like stopping you and like, oh my God, it's Jimmer and Jimmer Mania?
It's not nearly as bad as Utah, right? Like Utah is the climax for that. It's the spot, and part of the reason why we love living out here in Colorado. And yeah, it's definitely more low key. I mean, obviously, I'll get stopped, in Colorado, even just nationwide, sometimes worldwide.
Right.
You'll get stopped just randomly by people, of course, that love BYU or college basketball fans or NBA basketball fans, whatever that is. So I'll get noticed, but I can live a much more normal life out here than in Utah for sure.
I'm just curious. So Jimmer Mania, obviously 2011, the dude averaged 29 points a game, shot 40% from three. But I mean, in your junior season, you averaged less points, but you shot 44% from three on 5 attempts per game. Just insane. What do you remember most? What stands out to you? Because the reason I asked that first question is like, I wonder what people remember. Like when you're in Utah, what do people say? Like, oh, I remember this. And then contrast that with what you remember.
Yeah. I mean, they remember long range shots, right? That's what they think. That's what they think of when they hear Jimmer. They correlate Jimmer to this day to BYU, no matter where I am. And then they correlate that to, shooting from super deep, and a lot of people will be like, man, when I was younger, I used to say Jimmer when I shot a shot, and, all these different types of things, and which is awesome. And obviously I remember all those moments too. And, I definitely had some deep range, and that was something that made me unique and different, especially at the time. And a lot of people obviously remember a couple different things with the San Diego State game that we played at our place. That was a massive game that people watched. And then our Sweet 16 run in the tournament, right? The tournament is always the most heavily watched NCAA basketball event. So because we played well there and made a run in there and kind of did our thing for a few different games, people remember that, of course. And I obviously remember those very, very fondly.
Jimmer Fredette joining us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Jimmer Mania, it was a full-blown cultural phenomenon back in 2010 and 2011. President Obama was mentioning you when he was filling out his bracket. Did you have a moment, when did you first realize things had just gotten truly crazy out there in Jimmer Mania and the support of you in your play?
Yeah, no, I remember specifically it happened right after that San Diego State game that I talked about at our place. Once it was 2 top 10 teams that played, people obviously knew about us. We had a great beginning of the season. Things were going really well. Jimmer Mania was kind of taking off, but once that San Diego State game happened and we ended up winning, I had a really great game. That was when all of the professional athletes and kind of music industry people and all of these famous people started tweeting about me after that game, and because of that, it exploded, and it was pretty wild to say. And I remember after that game, that was the first time I had been a part of a court rushing before. So all of our students rushed the court, and I was like, this is kind of cool. And then it immediately turned to, I need to get out of here. Like, people are trying to grab me and pull me and hold me, and I was like, so they brought the security around, and I remember looking over the scores table. They brought me behind the score table and kind of had me enclosed over there, and there was just a sea of people out there looking at me and, chanting my name and chanting BYU, and it just was surreal. And then I remember after that game, normally you just walk out the Marriott Center front doors, like I'd always walk out, and I'd, get in my car and leave, just because, people, it was a couple hours after the game, whatever it was, people had kind of left, and, you can kind of get out of there on your own. And I remember after that game, they were like, you can't leave out the normal way that you normally go. There's thousands of people out there waiting for you, and we don't have security to get you through. And they're like, so my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, Whitney, she drove the car underneath the Marriott Center, the loading dock, to pick me up, so that I had to go out that way. And then ever since then, I had to do that. Every road game we went to, there'd be thousands of people waiting for us before or after the game. We'd get home at 2 a.m. At the Provo airport. There'd be people that were there waiting. We had security. It just kind of actually just exploded overnight. And then all of a sudden I was wanted to be on every single TV and radio show you could possibly think of. They had a Jimmer tracker on ESPN and like all these crazy stuff after that game. And it was wild, to be honest with you. It was a really cool experience. But it was something that I wasn't necessarily, prepared or ready for.
My co-host, his name is James, and I believe your legal name is James as well, right?
Yep, it is. Yep.
Okay, so I mean,
let's go.
He's just James. Nothing cool about that.
They used to call me BYU at the rec center. Pick up basketball.
There you go.
I'm not kidding.
I love that.
So
Let's go.
where did? And I can't call James Jim. He's a big non-Jim guy. So
Right,
how did Jimmer come?
Yeah, it was my mom. Like I literally, was born and she named me James Taft Fredette. But she's like, you're not being called James, you're being called Jimmer. And it was just because, she liked the name James, but she had a lot of Jims and Jameses in the family. So it was kind of like a family name, but she wanted a unique spin on it. And for some reason, she just thought of it. And, she's obviously like a master, at branding. She was incredible.
Yeah.
That was an amazing job by her. Take all the credit. And, obviously it became kind of like the one name recognition just because it's kind of a unique, different name, even though it's not like crazy, like to think about it, but but it is still different. So because of that, yeah, that's where it came from. And she would go in, I remember I was in, kindergarten and I'd be in school and she'd be like, yes, his legal name is James, but do not call him that. You need to call him Jimmer. She'd tell all my teachers that, principal and everything. So I've always been called Jimmer.
Well, Jimmer, I'm announcing a game tomorrow night on ESPN2, and I'll be introducing myself as Jimmer.
No,
Westling,
there's only one.
Moving forward, just to see what happens, right?
That's hilarious. You should do it. You should do it. Just give me a little shout out too. If you do that, I think that would be phenomenal. I love that.
You have to mention that Jimmer gave you the okay to do it.
Right. Like this was previously
that would be great.
approved by the real Jimmer.
There you go. I love it.
Man, you put up like some ridiculous numbers overseas, scoring 37, 38 points a game. You had a 75-point game. Take us through, like we always love to hear the stories of fighting through adversity, and you mentioned some of the loneliness that came with being so far away from your family, but you were just on the floor bawling out every single night. So what can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, it was interesting, right? So I remember it was like my fourth year. After my fourth year in the NBA, going into the fifth year, I was at training camp with the Spurs, and it ended up being a place where it was going to come down to me and one other guy of who was going to make the team. Like I was trying to still make the team and make the NBA, and they gave me an opportunity. And I got called into Coach Popovich's office, last preseason game, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to have to cut you from the team." And I was like, man, I had never been cut from a basketball team at that point in my life. And it was difficult, right? And I was like, all right, what do I do now? Like, what's the opportunity? What's ahead? And I had all these opportunities all over the world. I knew that an NBA door had closed at that point. But China was something that spoke to me for some reason. Yao Ming was the owner at the time. He wanted me to come over and play. Shanghai is an amazing city. They had a coach that was American. His name's Brian Gorgon, who was the Australian national team for the Olympics. He's been their head coach for the last several cycles and just an amazing guy. And I just felt it was the right place to go. So I did, and it was the right decision. And I told myself, I was like, listen, I could sulk and be done and, forget about not, and just be like, no one would fault you for kind of just giving up if you just decide you want to do that. But I was like, that's not who I am. When another door opens up, it's time to go take advantage of that opportunity and do it to the best of my ability. And I wanted to go be the best player I could be over there. And, the first season, won MVP of the league and leading scorer. We had a great season, one of the best seasons Shanghai had up to that point. It became kind of Jimmermania all over again in China, which was a really cool experience for that next 4 years. And I love the people of Shanghai. They gave me an opportunity. Still loved, being able to follow them and what they're doing. And I still get a lot of support from the people over there. And just an incredible experience, both culturally and on the basketball court, and kind of changed the narrative of, why is he not back in the NBA again? And then actually after my third season in China, I did get an opportunity to come back and play in the NBA in my late 20s, which really does not happen for a guy like myself. And which was a really cool narrative. And it was just it was a great experience for me.
Well, and then to be able to compete at the Olympics in the 3v3, one, what was that like? And two, did I read you basically oversee FIBA 3-on-3 Olympics now? Is that what you do?
Yeah, so what happened, so I obviously played 3x3, got to play, put the USA on, play for the Olympics, go through the opening ceremony. So unfortunately, I got hurt the second game in. I tore my adductor and I couldn't play for the rest of the Olympics, which was heartbreaking because we had a chance to medal. You were the best team in the world going into that tournament, and we had high expectations, and then it gets taken away from you very, very quickly with an injury, which was really unfortunate. And then after that, I was going to retire after that regardless of what happened, and I ended up retiring, and USA Basketball came to me and said, hey, would you be interested in being managing director of our 3x3 program for USA Basketball? So that's what I'm doing now. I'll pick the team for the Olympics in 2028. I pick all the World Cup teams. I'm in the midst of, recruiting guys, getting guys to come play for us, and, hopefully be able to help bring a medal home in 3x3 basketball in a different capacity. But to be involved in USA Basketball at any level, and be a managing director, I mean, that's for like Grant Hill and Sue Bird and, these famous, amazing Hall of Fame players. And then there's me. They threw me in there for some reason, but it's a great opportunity.
Jimmer Fredette here on Big 12 Today. Before we let you go, Ari and I both have youngsters playing basketball. We're talking 9, 10 years old. So break down what makes the perfect jump shot that we can share with these guys.
Good call.
Yeah, I love it. So balance is huge. You got to make sure you're on balance. Footwork and balance, making sure you're squared to the basket, even if you're kind of, turning into your shot. That's a huge deal. Elbows got to be in. It's got to be under that ball, right? I don't want it out. It makes it so that ball goes straight every time. So you got to make sure that elbow's in and under the ball. And then a lot of things, obviously the follow through is really important, but when you follow through, one of the things that I tell people is that your shoulder actually has to be pointing towards the basket when you're done. Because if your shoulder's pointing towards the basket when you're done, that means that ball is for sure going straight. And that is really, really important on the follow through. If you watch all the best 3-point shooters in the world, you see Steph Curry, a lot of times they end up a little bit sideways because their shoulder is right directly towards the rim when they're shooting it. And it makes it so that ball has no variance left or right. And then it's just about getting consistency, too short or too long, right? That's what you want. You don't want left or right. If it's too short or too long, you can get that muscle memory with your legs. So those are the most important things.
Yep, the best miss is a straight line miss. Jimmer Fredette, former BYU NBA guard, a long, lengthy, successful career as a hooper, joining us here on Big 12 Today. Jimmer, this was awesome, man. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on. This was fun. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
That was awesome.
Jimmer Fredette, his jersey in the rafters at the Marriott Center in Provo, Utah. The 2011 National Player of the Year guided BYU to a Sweet 16.
And there's a lot of factors that delivered BYU to the Big 12, but I don't think we can downplay Jimmer mania and Jimmer, his junior and senior seasons at BYU and what that meant towards helping the profile of BYU, especially for basketball, and helping to deliver them to the Big 12. Again, football plays a huge role in that, certainly, and there's lots of factors, but I don't think we can divorce Jimmer from that and his role in helping BYU get to the Big 12.
Totally. And, man, I could listen to that guy talk all day. When he's telling stories about after the San Diego State game, having to have his girlfriend, now wife, pull the car from back underneath in the loading dock so he can get out of there without being mobbed.
I mean, he was the Beatles. Jimmermania was legit. It was unbelievable. And I think it was just this combination of this dude could hit a shot from anywhere, and he just looked like anybody, right? Like it could be any of us, even though he wasn't.
He had a swagger about him too.
Yeah.
People love the swagger. All right, we'll wrap up the show with the final whistle. Coming up next, he's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios.
Check out the top plays from this week's Big 12 women's basketball starting five.
'68 made threes on the season.
Delaney Gibb driving baseline left. Offs for the glass. This is the fourth time in the last 6 games for BYU they have trailed after the first quarter. Delaney Gibb, and now lead 5 in the game to begin the fourth quarter. Delaney Gibb, scoop shot won't go. Thomas with another rebound. Gibb pokes it away and a steal. She'll try a three. Oh! Oh, my goodness.
Whether you get stops and you got to secure the defensive board or get a good shot.
Oh, there's Gibb for three.
Of this first quarter. It's Gibb against Otto. Sneaks inside, lays it in, and BYU will take a 3-point lead at the end of this first quarter. Gibb. Cut off by Jumstead. Now drives right. Clock down to 5. Splits defenders and scores. What a finish by Delaney Gibb.
You plug away on offense, see what happens.
Clock running late. Gibb with some space and cashes in with another three.
It's okay that she didn't win the drill because she hit one of the most iconic shots in Utah basketball history.
She hit the most important one. Gibb with a very important three to end what was a quality Utah run.
Gets the nice angle to the roller. Nice to see from Utah.
Delaney Gibb, money once again. Another triple for Gibb.
It's not too late, but is to take the ball out of her hands, do some double teaming off the POBs.
Gibb, a special player and a special performance. Gibb with 28.
Back inside one final time here on Big 12 today, wrapping up the work week on a Fanatic Friday powered by Modelo, where off-season optimism is
mandatory.
It is mandatory. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Just had Jimmer Fredette, the Jimmermania BYU legend, who became just the 5th BYU basketball player to have their jersey retired and hung in the rafters at the Marriott Center. An awesome interview with Jimmer, by the way.
Yeah, if you missed it, you need to go check it out. Also really glad you asked him for some shooting advice because, yeah, it's good for both our kids and for us.
Rec League's going to be fire.
Yeah.
Dropping 30 next time out. We also had the coach, Norm Roberts, on the show. Justin Spears joined us from ESPN Tucson. We had Josh Edwards from CBS. But as we wrap here, Ari Timken, 40 years old, University of Kansas grad, Chicago Bears fan. This man watches the NFL Combine like it's the Super Bowl. Does not miss a single drill. You're dedicated, you're locked in, and I have the ultimate hobby for you.
Okay.
It's time to give this man a front office. Give this man a front office. We need to get you on some of these Sim League NFL games. Simulation leagues. They exist.
I need the real thing.
Okay.
You haven't even seen the depth of my scouting prowess quite yet.
What if I told you it was real players? You're the general manager of an NFL team, real players, real prospects. Are you taking Jacob Rodriguez in the second round? Does he slide to the third round? Do you reach for him in the first round?
Okay, so
if I unleash this monster to you, you will not. You will. All things will be set aside.
Well, I thought we were talking about Jacob Rodriguez here. No, are we not? Is there something? Let me just real quick on Rodriguez. Obviously, depends on my needs.
Okay.
It feels like I want him to. I want to be the beneficiary of his slide. Second round feels like too much of a reach. Now, if linebacker is a concern of mine, then yeah, I might stretch and reach for him in the second round. But I'm also kind of like, oh, how long can I wait before I can get this guy? Because I think, again, based on how he tests, most teams are going to look and say, this is not a 3-down linebacker. This is more of a thumping, run-stuffing linebacker. What are you laughing about?
Just how much you would love what I'm talking about.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. You're laughing at me. I'm trying to give you my breakdown here.
This is selling
my point. I'm opening up to you in a way that I just don't usually do that.
With your
very vulnerable
deep dive of Jacob Rodriguez.
So I'm just saying, I think a lot of teams are going to look at him and they're going to look at the 4.57 40 and be like, he's not going to play in coverage. He can't cover. And it's like, yeah, put on the tape. Put on the tape. The eye of this guy don't lie. This dude can cover. He's a 3-down linebacker. He's not just a run-stuffing, thumping linebacker.
I'm telling you,
I'm Team J-Rod.
I'm not describing a video game. I'm describing something that people who like fantasy football, fantasy football is too casual. I'm talking about a digital front office addiction that I'm going to get you hooked on.
Okay.
With these sim games, these sim leagues. So stay tuned.
Okay.
You're going to love it.
I don't know if you were telling me what this game is. So
there's a ton of them out there. There's a lot of different games out there. They're different from Madden or
look, I'm positioning myself for a legitimate front office job.
Well,
James.
The first thing you need to do is win multiple Super Bowls on the digital version, and then you can use that as a resume builder for the real life thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I could just send my resume like.
I mean, James Blanchard, he started on the Baylor message boards.
4-time Sim League champion.
Yes, that's the headline. 4-time Sim League champion. Nobody drafts like this guy. And then you're there. You're in.
I appreciate you. Thank you for helping me accomplish my dreams at 40 years old.
It's happening.
Well after many other I'd probably at 40 without any experience in any NFL front office be far older than anybody else that's most GM's age.
I think you're in the window. I think the window is now.
There's like 27-years-olds that are like, this math wonderkind is the next great GM.
Yep.
It's like,
yeah,
wasted my life.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm with you on that. All right, that's going to put a wrap on this edition of Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are back on Monday. Our NFL Combine Draft preview will continue. Special thanks to all of our guests today, including Jimmer Fredette, the former BYU legend and NBA overseas guard. He joined us in this last hour. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. For Anthony Smith and Taman Turner, you've been listening to and watching Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn.